And good evening. Today is August the 19th. Right now it's 7:30, and I'm calling to order this evening's meeting of the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. For the benefit of those who have not participated in a Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, our procedures are as follows. The Secretary will read the legal notice of the meeting as published in the local newspapers. Our Secretary's out tonight, so Tom has offered to do it. The applicant will be invited to come forward and present the case, explaining to the Commission and others present what is being requested of this property. Comments of town agencies will be read for each application if there are any. First, there'll be clarifying questions from the commissioners, and then there'll be an opportunity for clarifying questions from the audience. Next, we'll ask those who want to support the application to come forward, and second, we'll ask those opposing the application to come forward. As this is a public meeting and must be recorded, it will be necessary for the speakers to identify themselves by stating their name and their address before addressing the commission. The applicant will then be free to leave or remain for the balance of the public hearing and the regular meeting, during which time the commission will try to reach a decision on each application. Each applicant will be notified in writing as to the decision of the commission and has a right to appeal to Superior Court if desired. Decisions of this meeting are available the day after the meeting by calling the Planning and Zoning Office at 203-453-8039 after 9 a.m. Seated tonight, we got, how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so everybody's seated. So we got Walter Corbier, we got Tom Costa, I'm Rich Meyer. We have George Underhill, Frank DeAndrea, Josh Hirschman. Staff tonight, we have Lisa Brewer, we have Reggie Reed, and we have George Crowell. Want to read us some information, Tom? Oh, Walter's going to read it. Great. It's even better.
He's reappointed the senior-most member of the minority, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Legal notice, Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission. Notice is hereby given that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a public hearing on August 19, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. Please note, change in venue. Guilford Fire Department, 309 Church Street, Guilford, Connecticut, for the following purposes. Maria Kaplan, 65 Waterside Drive, Map 8, Lot 55, Zone R2, new house. Kelly Carney, 108 Wilderwood Drive, Map 83, Lot 15-66, Zone R7, special permit for commercial kitchen for prepared foods and catering for off-site delivery, no on-site pickup. Waiver of professionally prepared site plan requested. Proposed amendments allowing for medical marijuana dispensaries and production facilities in commercial and industrial zones. Proposed amendments requiring 2 public hearings for special permit applications. Proposed amendments requiring 2/3 vote to approve site plan, special permit, and zoning amendment applications when a protest petition is received. Copies of these applications are available for inspection in the Office of the Planning and Zoning Commission, Town Hall South, 50 Boston Street, Guilford, Connecticut. At this hearing, persons may attend and be heard, and written communications will be received. Dated at Guilford, Connecticut, this 29th day of July, 2015. Richard Meyer, Chairman.
Thank you, Walter. That's very good. Before we get rolling, I just want to thank everybody for attending. This really is what this is about. We appreciate everyone coming down and giving us their opinions. So you're more than welcome. We'll take as much time as we need to hear everybody. We value your input. So thank you.
Can I get
a... Yes.
I don't know if this was left out, but that last one, proposed amendments, if anybody's here from that, it says withdrawn.
Yeah, we do the withdrawals on the agenda afterwards.
Okay.
Not on the legal notice that we get it.
Just in case anybody's here, you can leave if they don't want to hang out.
Which one is the one that's withdrawn?
Proposed amendments
I
requiring
think they're here for
2/3.
the 2/3.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Yeah,
Probably not.
I guess they could be.
Great. All right, can I get a motion to open the public hearing for Maria Kaplan?
moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Do we have someone for Maria Kaplan? There we go. Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
You can also use this table if you'd like.
Oh. Okay. My name's Rob Coolidge. I'm the architect for the project. My address is 29 Wilcox Place, Branford, Connecticut. This is a proposal to tear down an existing house that is not in good shape. Particularly the foundation doesn't seem suitable to be reused, so we're going to start all over from scratch. And there is a new engineered septic system designed for the property as well. So it's basically all new all over again. It's substantially similar in location and size to the existing house, except that our proposal is 1.5 to 2-story house instead of the existing 1-story house. And slightly adjusted to, we needed a variance for this, so there's slightly improved side yard setbacks, even though they needed a variance to get them, which was granted. Most of the rest of it's fairly straightforward. Have you had a chance to look at the materials? Or
I read some of the things. You're going in a VE zone, or?
There's one element of this that's in a VE zone, and it's simply the staircase that comes off the deck. Other than that staircase, everything else here, there was a question that came up in the state DEP, in response to the state DEP's question, I did this illustration in 3D. This is the demarcation zone of the VE zone, that's the AE zone, and it's showing floodwater heights. So only the staircase falls in that zone. And so I've been told to treat it as a separate structure, that it stands free all by itself, and that the rest of the structure, is freestanding. And so that way the house itself merely needs to meet AE zone regulations. I think he said in a letter that even so, the floor level is high enough to meet the VE zone as it is.
So in his letter, it appears that the proposed dwelling must be constructed to VE zone standards.
Well,
This is from John Goucher.
that was his first letter, and then he had a reply
It's the only letter I
just
have.
today. Again, we just got it.
What is the letter? I got, this is one from John Goucher, but there's apparently a newer one.
Yeah, here. This one's dated August 18th.
Okay.
Where is it?
I don't know.
You want me to read it?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, could you?
Okay.
Thanks.
He says, the information provided indicates that the existing single-story house will be removed and replaced with a new two-story house and septic system. The house is proposed to be constructed at its approximately same location in a FEMA Zone AE, elevation 11. The FEMA wave velocity elevation 12 is located several feet off the proposed deck and includes the steps to the deck, the wooden walk, which actually we're removing, and the proposed septic tank and pump chamber. The construction of the first floor is shown to be above the FEMA wave velocity zone. The plan provides for erosion and sedimentation control measures and are designed to protect the adjacent coastal resources. In order to make sure that the coastal resources are protected, I recommend the following conditions of approval. 1, the Town of Guilford zoning enforcement officer should be notified to inspect the sedimentation and erosion control measures prior to any demolition of or site regrading. Soil stockpiles should be contained by hay bales. Soil erosion and sedimentation control measures shall be backed by orange construction fencing and be maintained until vegetation is established or suitable material is installed to the satisfaction of the zoning enforcement. 2, a note should be placed on the coastal area management plan indicating which side yard setback of the property will be maintained for view access and remain unobstructed in accordance with section 273-91J of the Town Guilford zoning regulations. And 3, since the septic tank and pump chamber are located in the wave velocity zone, these tanks should be properly sealed and anchored to prevent flotation during major coastal storm.
Was that from Kevin McGee?
Not John Goucher.
That's from John Goucher?
No, Kevin McGee's environmental plan.
Oh, so Kevin McGee's talking about AE and John Goucher is VE? Is that correct?
Do you want me to read John Goucher's letter?
Yeah, would you do that?
All right. This is dated July 20th, 2015, to Lisa Brewer. Lisa, I received the above application today. The proposal does not require that the Commission of DEP be given 35 days to review and comment on the proposal. I will be able to review it before the tentative scheduled hearing date in mid-August. Site plan shows that the proposed dwelling is to be constructed in the VE and AE coastal flood zones. However, other than showing the proposed first floor elevation of the dwelling, the application lacks sufficient information necessary to determine National Flood Insurance Program, NFIP consistency. It appears that the proposed dwelling must be constructed to VE zone standards. Foundation plans and architectural drawings are often necessary to determine NFIP consistency. If such information has been submitted, can you please forward it along so that we can provide comprehensive comments for the Planning and Zoning Commission members' consideration? Thank you, John Goucher. So, has there been back and forth?
Yeah, this packet is what I sent as additional information
That was
to
after,
him
that was after July 20th?
after, in reply to this letter. That's what this illustration was. And this also includes the architecturals.
And then did he ever respond to you?
No, I'm sorry, I misread that.
Okay.
The letter I just read I thought was his reply. Yes, so it's been mistaken.
That's a little interesting
Little odd.
situation we're in. So Kevin is talking about it's AE, or, I don't know what Kevin's saying.
Well, it doesn't seem like John Goucher had the full, he didn't really answer on a full application here. He was
Right.
looking for more information. And
Right.
I would like to know.
I think he's referring to an interpretation where if a part of a building falls in one flood zone, you have to treat the whole building as being that way. If you have separate structures, each one is whatever it falls within. So I've been advised by engineers to make the staircase a separate structure. And what he was asking for was more information, so I'm sure that wasn't clear to him.
Interesting.
From just all he had was the site plan showing it, so.
Well, there's another letter that you read.
Dennis Johnson?
This is from Dennis Johnson. The applicant's existing two-bedroom seasonal home will not be permitted to winterize to year-round use or increase wastewater design flow through the addition of a bedroom. Soil testing conducted on-site revealed a suitable area for installation of a septic system to accommodate the house renovation. It is recommended that the applicant's proposed coastal area management plan be approved with the following condition. 1, the septic system shall be installed in accordance with the engineer design plan dated June 6, 2015. This was dated August 18, 2015. Did you receive this letter from Dennis Johnson?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, I guess it wasn't to you. But you understand that, obviously, the septic system will be pursuant to the document submitted on June 6th. Okay.
Yeah, he approved.
Yeah,
he
exactly.
approved this.
Is there a significant rush to get this done? Because the way it stands right now, I am lost between, I'm really personally lost between
Well, did Kevin
Goucher-
answer the question? I mean,
Well, yeah, but Goucher said one thing, and we don't have any further input from Goucher saying that he accepts the fact that they can separate the stairs from the physical building.
So the problem I had is Goucher had almost a full month to respond to me.
So you're saying,
We need one more input from Deep, though, I think. The problem we've got here is that we're desperately trying to make sure that these coastal homes are up to snuff when it comes to wave action. And this AEV division is a little bit strange. And obviously, I mean, this is a structure that already exists, and
Well, they're
so,
taking the existing structure down and starting fresh. And if they go to
Right.
VE, are you going to have to go up on stilts to get?
No, the elevation is already sufficient, even if it, luckily the site slopes and you come from the uphill side, and we had no problem meeting that elevation.
but the bottom
you
point
get-
is 32 feet, right?
The flood zone, well,
And the average is 28 and 4 3/8 inches, 28 feet, 4 3/8 inches, but the lowest point, at the lowest point on the footings, you get all the way to 32 feet, right? Is that correct?
I'm not quite following it.
There's a slope.
Oh, the slope, but for the
At the
site?
bottom of the slope,
You want to wait?
Oh, what I'm just
Yeah.
saying is that when you pull into the site, you're so high already that
right?
the first floor elevation for the house
Yeah.
is 14 feet. And the flood, we're talking about 12 and 11 for flood zone
Yeah.
planes. So we didn't have to like jack this house up. It just naturally, it falls above floodplain without even trying hard.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I don't have a specific problem with this plan. It looks good overall, except that I think that with the VE-AE split, I think we need to wait for Deep to get back to us one more time.
Mr. Coolidge,
Is it more of a question for the building inspector to
Yeah,
say,
no,
yes, it meets
the state needs to weigh in. Do you have a major inconvenience if we wait? Is it 2 weeks before we can get something from Goucher?
4.5.
Oh, because we're not having the next
The
meeting?
September 2nd meeting
Oh,
is
we
likely.
could. We could.
We
hold
could have that meeting on just this.
Yeah, we could. We could have
That's
it
true.
at McDonald's. We have the meeting there. I don't know. You know, from the architecturals, it looks like it's outside the VE, and I wouldn't have a problem, but
I think Kevin answers, I'm not sure whether he had spoken with John Goucher or not, but I think he answers the question in his memo that John Goucher raised. So the substantive issue has been resolved by Kevin.
So we're confident that it meets the
I think so.
VE zone requirements as it stands before us right now.
And I think the next letter, after reading Kevin's letter from John Goucher, would say that he has no comments for us.
right.
I know.
I agree.
I know.
And Dennis Johnson's on board, so.
I agree with that, Frank. I know that's what it would be.
May
All
I
right.
interject?
Yeah,
When
please.
the engineering department reviews this application, when it becomes a building permit, if he's not compliant with the FEMA standards and the flood standards, they're not going to sign it. He will have to redesign it to those
He's already
standards.
representing.
So
his
that's what he's
compliance
done.
with us right now.
That's what he's done. He's separated them into two structures.
Right.
I think he satisfied the substantive issue.
I agree. You're right. You're right.
I got just one question on Dennis Johnson's letter.
Yep.
The applicant's existing two-bedroom seasonal home will not be permitted to winterize to year-round use or increase wastewater design flow through the addition of a bedroom. And it's talking about a septic system to accommodate a renovation. Is this not a tear down and rebuild?
It is.
Are we talking about the exact same project here?
Maybe he meant to say existing two-bedroom seasonal home septic system.
Well, there's no intention to make this a year-round residence.
Right.
And it's gonna be 2 bedrooms?
It's 2 bedrooms.
Yes, sir.
And what, as I understand, I'm not the sanitarian, but as I understand it, what you're saying is it meets something like 65% of the requirement for a year-round residence. So that's sufficient to have a seasonal residence on that septic system. So that they want to see and be assured that it is a seasonal residence and doesn't, become year-round.
All right. You in a good spot?
Yep.
George?
Move to close public, oh, no, I'm sorry. Public comment.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's here for this, I'm
I
sorry.
don't know, people might be. Anyone want to comment, ask questions on this application? That's a surprise. All right, can I get a motion to close public hearing on?
So
this?
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I get a motion to open? Kelly Carney.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Yeah, I know where I can get it.
I'll give you more. Thank you very much, sir. Kelly Carney? Kelly Carney. Kelly Carney.
Sorry.
There you go.
My name's Jay Carney. I live in Guilford, Connecticut, and I'm speaking for Kelly Carney. I was going to do a PowerPoint presentation, but due to room layout and stuff, it didn't really work,
Right.
having to turn around. So I have printed out the PowerPoint presentation,
That's great.
so that you can also take a look at what I'm discussing. Pictures really not on the PowerPoint anyway, it's just screen one. Now I remember. Okay. My daughter Kelly and my wife and I own Casey's Pub in Guilford. We also own the Hickory Kitchen. Thank you very much. And we're requesting a special permit for a second kitchen that's already been built at her house. It's been installed and operating for 2 years. To prepare foods as an overflow supply to the kitchen and, well, to Casey's Pub and to Hickory Kitchen. The catering part is that in addition to the overflow to the restaurant, we also offer large platters of our ribs and our wings and such. I included the menu at the end. Didn't say it was takeout. But, you know, for Super Bowl, for, you know, barbecues, summer get-togethers, that type of thing. And to do all that puts a pretty good burden on the kitchen at Casey's. It's fairly small. Hickory Kitchen doesn't have a kitchen. So in order to, we're supplying the Hickory Kitchen from Casey's right now. So we were looking at doing this. And if you look at page 2, you can see that the kitchen there, this kitchen is actually in a third garage bay in the house. The house is a raised ranch, has 3 garage bays underneath. We put this in the third bay. If you came up to the house, you really wouldn't know that it was there. We requested that we waive the site plan simply because it's inside. We didn't do anything outside, so I'm not sure. The way I read the site plan was if we were making additions to the property, we didn't. If we were doing landscaping, which we didn't, we simply converted a third bay garage. I'll just explain that. We've had, what? No? Okay. When I submitted the permit application, we've had some opposition to the permit. None of it was voiced to us, but it was voiced to the town, and the town alerted to me, particularly the next door neighbor. I don't know if they're here. I immediately called the next door neighbor and asked what the issue was. That's a 6-burner stove, and it's a commercial stove. It has a hood system, requires an exhaust fan and a makeup air fan. The exhaust fan, the neighbor complained about the noise of the fans. I was unaware of the noise of the fan. This kitchen's been in operation for 2 years and nobody's approached us about noise from the house. I called Mr. Vitri and asked him if I could come over to his property and take a listen. He said, I don't allow people on my property. You can just go stand on the road and hear it. I went over, and the makeup air fan was making a hell of a racket. There was no question that the makeup air fan was noisy. The exhaust fan you can't really hear. I disconnected the makeup air. I checked with the hood company. There's ways for me to dampen that down. In the meantime, I've already had spoken to East Coast, people that put the hood system in, and with a health inspector. If I crack a window, crack a door into the garage, raise the garage 4 inches, that's plenty of air. We're running about 20%. We use the stove primarily to bake. We don't have a grill. There's no grease or anything going up there. My daughter also makes her own dog food, so we're making some stock. We're boiling off, trying some recipes out. Most of it's within the baking part of the stove, the oven. I'd say we're probably using about 20%. The exhaust fan, I took decibel readings. I took them at the source. They're about 52. I took them per town 1 foot off on the neighbor's yard of the adjoining property. It was low. It was below 40. I took them down by my mailbox on Wilderwood. It was below 40. I took them Saturday morning at 9 o'clock and Monday afternoon at 5 o'clock. So they're certainly within noise compliance. The exhaust fan right now is running at about 1,250 cubic feet per minute. I can knock it down to 750, which will reduce the noise even more. But right now, they're within the noise ordinance for the town. Trash, picked up on a regular basis. We have a dumpster, just like we do at the restaurant, picked up frequently. There was some concern about traffic. This is not a place of business. This is simply so that we can have the kitchen certified by the health department to provide food to our existing businesses. We're not running a bit, traffic up and down. We're not getting any deliveries up to the house. Any food that is brought up for preparation is brought in Kelly's personal vehicle. It leaves in her personal vehicle. There won't be any signage out saying there's a business. It's just to get the kitchen certified.
Can I ask you a question, Mr. Carney?
Absolutely.
You say you have an actual commercial roll-off dumpster, front-loaded?
It's not the problem. No, I guess I don't.
So what is it then? Because there's a big difference between a residential garbage can and a roll-off dumpster that's front-loaded that makes a heck of a racket for a residential area.
Do you know the size?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the smallest dumpster you can have?
In other words, is it a plastic container that they hand throw in, or do they come with a front-loading truck and dump it this way?
It's not a front-loading truck, but it isn't a plastic container either. It's John's Refuge.
It's a metal container?
They pick it up from the back,
It's a metal container, yeah. With one recycling bin.
but not a forklift like we have at the restaurant.
How frequently do you have the trash pickup? And
Twice a month.
just twice a month?
So you said that the health department certified your kitchen. Do they inspect this kitchen regularly?
No, they haven't certified it yet. That's what
That
we're
comes
trying
after
to
us.
accomplish. We pulled the permits for putting in the hood system, so it's been signed off by the fire department.
So it's been in operation 2 years and never inspected?
It's just a personal kitchen right now.
Wait a minute. For Casey's Pub, is where the food is sold?
No, it's just for, we are not providing, we want to
You
provide.
currently don't do
We
it?
don't provide, we just test recipes.
So you have
right now.
not produced any food and she has not taken it in her cart to the restaurant?
That's why we're here now, because we want to be able to do that.
I was confused, I'm sorry.
Sorry, can I say something like that? I talked to Dennis Johnson. I do, for example, this summer, I did 2 friends' barbecues, I did 2 friends' showers. We do cook food for friends, but that's separate from Casey's.
Yeah.
Personal, yeah.
It would be the same as like if someone invited you over for a party and you cooked at home and brought food, it's the same thing.
All right.
They are tests.
You raised an interesting point. I'm just curious. So you do dog food preparation? I've been reading, I have animals at home. Some dog food's being, animal food being removed from the shelves because of bacteria. So have they health inspected this food that you
So the
prepare?
food's just for her dog.
Yeah, for my dog.
For your dog?
Yeah.
It's still alive. Oh, okay. It's
And we're
still
not
alive.
doing anything at the we're not doing anything at the kitchen right now that's for pay. Everything is personal use.
Good.
But we would like to be able to bring food down to the restaurant. Dennis has been up there, and obviously that comes after the fact if it's approved, but I have to put in a grease trap, a small one. That's the only thing that he sees that I need to do. Bill Tovey, I'll have to pull a permit. If you guys approve me, I'll have to pull a permit for the building. But he's already been up when he did the inspections for the hood systems. Paul's been up there, he did the inspection for the fire extinguisher on the hood system. We pulled an electrical permit that got signed off by Bill. The only thing that he made a notice to me that I needed to change the door, but other than that, I did that ahead of time, so.
And just so I'm clear, this has been there for 2 years.
Correct.
It's set up as a commercial kitchen, like a 6-burner stove, Viking stove or something like that.
Right.
With a hood. It has garbage pickups, and you've made no food for Casey's Pub or anything so far.
That's why I'm here.
Okay, I want to understand. Yep,
Both of the people living in the house are chefs.
yep.
What do you do with your personal kitchen?
They don't use it.
Just the personal kitchen in the house.
The regular one?
Yes, the regular, I guess.
I
The
use
one that might
one.
resemble mine, but
My
probably doesn't.
boyfriend's
There's
the
a
chef, and so I use the regular kitchen, he barely uses that one. So this is like, it's hard to explain to people. The best thing I try to explain to people is like if you're a photographer, that's your hobby, you build like a studio when you're in your house. He's a chef, this is like his man cave area. He does test recipes, he plays around with different things. He actually has a TV in there, he watches the Food Network while he's cooking. And
I mean, I think the whole point is that, I mean, like even with the dumpster pickup, the dumpster's there for our house. We live there, we use the dumpsters.
Oh, so then if this turns into a commercial kitchen, would there be an increase in garbage pickup?
I doubt it. I mean, I'm the only one working there, so it's like, I mean, I don't know how much food would be going in and out of there. I mean, this is really kind of like a surplus kitchen. It's not supposed to be so much of a primary kitchen, you know?
So if this is going to be used to stock Casey's and your other
No,
facilities?
Casey's has its own kitchen.
Right, so what will this be used for?
for example,
Hickory Kitchen is the second.
The Hickory Kitchen, yes.
Right, it's gonna supplement for dog.
For instance, in the Hickory Kitchen, right now, you can buy prepared, you can go in and get a half rack of ribs in a cooler, and get a full rack of ribs.
And that will increase the garbage?
At our place,
Yeah.
well, we could increase the pickup if you'd like.
No, I'm asking if
Yeah, 108.
once you start using it for commercial supply to the Hickory Kitchen, wouldn't that naturally mean there's going to be more garbage pickups? And do you have to have like rodent control and things to?
We have an
keep-
exterminator for the house.
You do? Okay.
Could we have your name, please, for the
Sure.
record?
Livingston. Livingston, Kelly's boyfriend.
And that's your first name?
yeah.
That's my first name, yes.
And your last name?
Last name is Brayston Gordon.
Would you spell that for us? After.
It's BRAISTED hyphen HORTON.
Thank you.
No problem.
Perfect, thank you. All right, what else do you have? Anything?
Only answers to your questions.
Okay. Commissioners? Josh? Frank?
Yeah. So, in one of these photographs that you have here, what, is this a refrigeration system? What is that? Looks like a small walk-in box.
It's a small walk-in box that I stuck there.
Okay.
If you have the opportunity to talk to your neighbors, you know, that might be affected by this as your business grows.
Well, the only one that made,
Yeah, you mentioned about the noise.
Was
You
Carmen
said like that.
Vitri.
Yeah.
And he's the only one until within the last couple of days that had made it an issue of it. No one has made an issue to it of us directly.
Or perhaps somebody in the audience might be here to teach us.
Yeah, they'll have an opportunity to do
Right.
that. Good. Tom? Got anything? Walter?
No, I'm good.
All right, anyone have any questions in our audience? Ma'am?
I think one of the reasons I'm a neighbor, and I live on both sides.
Can we do your name and address? Yeah, name and address for the
I'm not quite
record.
ready to read my letter, but I want to answer your question, why you haven't heard from anybody, or Kelly hasn't.
Could you give us your name and address, please?
Lori Shaw, 37 Woodward. For one thing, when I went down to Town Hall, when I first saw the thing that was only placarded out in front of the property, it's an unusual placement. I mean, the house is up on the hill, and so people thought that the handicraft business was actually going into the other house, which currently is vacant. So there was confusion about what was going in. And once we found out what a handicraft business really is, and we have 2 years ago, when a kitchen was put in the house, there didn't seem to be a permit, so no one knew you were putting in a commercial kitchen. So-
It's a residential kitchen now. It's not a commercial kitchen. I mean, it has commercial appliances in it, but it's not a commercial kitchen until they give me
Well, I
any
think
kind of
when the
approval.
exhaust
So-
fan went up,
So that permit was pulled and approved. The electrical was pulled and approved. And as a residential, I could frame out the third garage. If they approve the application tonight, then I have to go to the building department and pull a permit for the building and have Bill come up and inspect it.
I guess I'm confused, we couldn't find a building permit for the second period. So it looks like that went in and nobody knew about it. Perhaps if people knew what was coming, you would have heard. So did that answer your question?
Well, that's good. Does anyone else have anything to add?
We're doing questions now, right?
Right.
No comments. Yeah.
Right. Any other questions? Going to be comments in a second. Any comments? Nothing. Nothing at all. You can tell us you hate the idea, you think it's great, you think it's bad.
I have plenty to say.
All right, so one at a time. And could you come up here and speak over here? So, yeah, you can just sort of take cover over here. There we go.
And remember, name and addresses for the
Yes, sir,
record,
I got it
please.
all right here on paper.
Thank you, sir.
Use this too.
Thank you. My name's Joseph Zakicki. I live at 154 Wilderwood Drive in Guilford. And I'm here in response to the special permit request at 108 Wilderwood Drive. I'm opposed to having a commercial kitchen operation in a residential zone property here on Wilderwood Drive. There's plenty of other commercial, but that's besides the point. The permit may have listed the commercial business as a home handicraft industry, which most would feel misleading, false statement. Operating such under a false statement pretenses is nothing short of not telling the truth. It is not a home handicraft. You would think of somebody making quilts or little home paintings in their house for home handicraft. Further, I asked the Board of Planning and Zoning, how would you like to listen to an exhaust fan running at all hours of the night? And I do mean all hours of the night, because on the original permit, it did state that it would be used as needed, which means it can operate under any parameters. On Saturday, August the 8th, at 8:45, while caring for a neighbor's home at 91 Wilderwood, right directly across the street, I went into the bedroom area to open up the drapes to make the house look a little more lived in. And I personally heard the exhaust fan running on the second floor in the bedrooms while I was up there. And then I also heard the exhaust fans running when I went out to their driveway. Additionally, septic system at 108 Wilderwood Drive spills into the street, and I have for the commission some samples of what happens during the winter time. That's coming directly from their septic system, spilling out into the street.
Do you know that for a fact? Because it's not.
Well,
The town's already been up there and looked at it. It's not.
where would all that water come from? Where would all that water come from?
Well, okay.
So anyway, further, I am totally opposed to have the parameters, if this is permitted, for business requirements. In other words, the business can operate without impunity. They could just operate in any hours that they so choose. This is a residential community. When I made improvements to my property at 154, improvements, the town made me submit a drawing by an architect and approved by a certified engineer when I made those improvements back in '88. And at the very least, my closing statement is, I ask the Board of Planning and Zoning not to approve an open-ended permit by allowing a business to run unfettered for the hours of operation. Make the permit stated as such 9 to 5, period. Just the same as the town has done to the New Haven Sportsman's Club, which can now only operate between the hours of 9 and 5. I also have one further statement that I would like to read, if you would give me a few moments, from Mrs. Vitry, because her and her husband could not be here because of a medical emergency. The following is from a statement from Paula Vitry at 94 Wilderwood Drive, directly adjacent to the subject property here. There is concern for use of a residential well water for a commercial industry. There would probably be more use of water for preparing food and cooking, washing pots and pans, cleaning of the kitchen. What would the effect be on the surrounding houses? Number 2, there is concern for the use of residential septic system that has already had issues in the past, now being commercial. In the past, the water has overflowed and run across our driveway in the winter and frozen, and has made it hazardous for anyone walking in or near our driveway. Another concern is the use of cleaning solvents and grease going into the septic system. Number 3, in the zoning code, chapter 273, Town of Guilford, it states on page 32, no evidence of the industry shall be visible from outside the dwelling, except that one sign on the premises identifying the occupant and his or her business and not exceeding 2 feet in an area shall be permitted. The vent on the fan of the roof is certainly evidence of this industry. When leaves come down in the fall, it is certainly an eyesore. Number 4, it might be within legal noise limits, but when the vent fan runs, it goes for hours on end. It is found to be a distraction when sitting outside, and I've felt the need to stay inside the house instead. It would also seem that the vent fan would have a negative impact on anyone in the neighborhood who wants to sell their home. Number 5, the time that Kelly Carney states the kitchen would be used is Monday to Sunday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., or as dictated by their needs. That would be pretty much say any time they need to. I feel their needs need to be stricter on the limit of this use. Number 6, there is concern for the inland wetlands on Crestwood Drive in regards to the septic system being overused in this commercial industry. That concludes the statement from Paula Vitry. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
We neglected one letter. I think that should be read in.
Why don't you read that in?
If you mind, and I apologize to anybody in the audience. This is from Dennis Johnson. It should have been read before the public commented. It says, an inspection of the applicant's garage area revealed that suitable structural space and utilities exist for construction of a small commercial food preparation kitchen. An examination of the septic system records for the property indicated that the previously expanded septic system is sufficient in size to allow for additional wastewater flow from a catering kitchen. Based upon site inspection, it's recommended that the applicant's proposed change in use be permitted with the following condition. 1, that a grease trap for kitchen grease waste removal shall be installed prior to operation of the commercial kitchen.
Thank you, Frank. So what that means is our health inspector has looked at and said that the septic system should be able to. But of course, we take other things into account. Who else would like to speak? Oh, someone back there.
Just move this down really quickly now, so it's not real formal. Hi. My name is Valerie Morel, and I reside at 41 Crestwood Drive, and I have lived there with my family for 22 years. My backyard and property line runs the entire length directly below the yard and driveway of 108 Wilderwood Drive, where the proposed special permit for a commercial kitchen is located. I am in favor and support this permit. I have 20-plus years in the food service business, and I fully understand the definition of a commercial kitchen, one of which is to safely prepare product for sale at an associated business with regard to proper health and sanitation standards. In closing, may I say that Kelly Carney provides jobs and a much-needed commercial tax base to the town of Guilford. She has followed protocol for permits and proper zoning. If anybody looks at them, they'll see that. So I fully support this permit. And I also abut their entire back and the noise that we just heard about. I have a deck and a screen porch in the back of my house. I am outside all the time, except for the 3 evenings when I work, and I hear no noise.
Come on.
My name is Patricia Cawley. I'm at 99 Wilderwood Drive. I've been living there for over 35 years. I'm going to read my statement, and I might have something else to say after from what I've learned tonight. I still am confused and do not understand how this could even be under consideration, a special permit, given the nature of the business. If it's approved, it would allow for this commercial kitchen to operate on a daily basis, which would have a negative impact on our residential neighborhood. My concerns are devaluation of property, the smell, which I have smelled, the noise, which I have heard, excessive garbage, increased traffic, and septic and well issues, which some of them have already been addressed. But I still don't understand about the septic. To my understanding, if Kelly has already 2 established commercial sites, why is it even necessary to run a commercial kitchen in our residential neighborhood? It should remain a commercial, the kitchen to remain in a commercial zoned area. In addition, I would also question, why has the town allowed the kitchen to operate already throughout the past 2 years? Which was a little bit clarified, but it's still running, it still runs, and we were confused as to what was going on, where the food was being brought, and why. I and many neighbors have already experienced the increased noise and smells on an ongoing basis, randomly, as you have clarified that you have done it for some profit and catering and personal parties and whatever. I've lived there for over 35 years, and I wish that I can continue to live in this quiet environment. Unfortunately, there are other neighbors who are unable to attend this meeting tonight due to vacation plans and prior commitments. I'm in no way speaking for them. However, I do know that I am not alone in my sadness this brings to the residents of and near Wilderwood Drive, that this could actually be happening on our street. Thank you.
Anything you wanted to add to it, or?
I think I'm good for now.
Okay, if you think anything else.
I will. Thank you.
Okay. Who else? Anyone else?
As I said, I'm Lori Shaw, 37 Wilderwood Drive. My husband Terry wasn't able to be here tonight, but I speak for both of us. We would like to be on record as opposing the request for a special permit for an in-home catering/cooking business to be located in our neighborhood. We believe the application filed for a handicraft operation does not seem to be appropriate considering the nature and extent of this business. And actually tonight, from what I heard, it's not 2 businesses, it's actually 3. A catering business, Casey's Pub, and the new one. The word handicraft, by definition, refers to an activity that involves an artisan creating something in a skillful way by using their hands in a small quantity. There is nothing handicraft about cooking meat. The application is for a commercial kitchen running 7 days a week from 9 to 6 with 2 employees. In the application it says, it doesn't call them employees, it calls them 2 other than family. But I don't know what else they would be except employees. To me, that's what sums up a business. Should the application, we request that the board get a legal opinion about what qualifies for a special permit and further clarify what a handicraft business is and what it is not, since it appears the term is a misnomer in this case. Should the application be changed to a different hearing, zoning or a variance in zoning, our concerns would remain the same, so I'll continue. Our points of concern: a food establishment in our neighborhood will mean delivery trucks bringing supplies in and taking product out, and I don't see how you get around that. It increases noise, it increases traffic. A dumpster pickup. The need for a dumpster speaks to the volume of garbage which is or will be generated by this business. I know of no other single-family home that generates enough garbage to require weekly dumpster pickups. The content of the dumpster is also troubling. It's not building debris or paper products, but rather primarily meat, grease, and other meat byproducts. Water issues. You've seen the pictures. I did talk to Dennis Johnson. He said the septic was adequate, but you can see these pictures were taken from last winter, and whether it's septic or whether there's other seepage coming in off the property, it runs down from that property down into the road. I can't imagine adding a commercial business in there is not going to increase that concern. That not only is icy, but it smells foul. And Dennis told me that there's something, I think the ferrous is what he says smells. It's not sewage. In any case, how can you add more water? The house was designed to be for family, not a business. I'm concerned for safety, the neighborhood and the public in general. As I understood it, there was no permit to put in that second kitchen. So I'm concerned about the fire safety, the health safety. Is the neighborhood more at risk? Does cooking meat in a home and transporting it to a storefront increase the public health risk for salmonella or listeria or other food issues? We're concerned that the adoption of this special permit potentially jeopardizes safety in the neighborhood. It introduces a business establishment into a residential neighborhood and negatively impacts the quality of life for neighbors, especially the Vitries, who unfortunately could not be here tonight. But any other neighbor that has to listen to that fan, which nobody has really spoken about, it's about, what, 16, 20 feet tall. It's aluminum. It's unsightly. It's 30 feet away from Carmen's property line, and it's very noisy. And I know he's told me that he can't sit out in his backyard because it's so noisy for him. And that affects his quality of life. Carmen has lived in the town on the street, as many as have for 35 years. He retired. He gave service to the town of Guilford for 30 years, and he can't enjoy his backyard, and I think that's a shame. I believe all these factors add up to negatively impact the property values in the neighborhood. As I understand, planning and zoning boards are charged with remaining neutral on the issues and interpreting the established rules and regulations, including protecting the segregation of commercial and residential zones. We would like to see this business be required to operate in a commercial zone where it more appropriately fits and protect our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Carney, can I ask you a question? They were referring to two non-family members as possible employees. Can you explain that?
That's per the permit. That's not, we wouldn't be doing that, but the permit allows that. That's the only reason that that's there. We have no intention of taking up the other two.
Okay. And
The other thing that I want to clarify is that there was the home industry permit application was the only option provided by the town. I mean, there wasn't anything else to put this under.
So I'm having a hard time with this.
The house that's on Ledge, Dennis has already been out there, the house.
You realize that we have defined, we already defined what home handicraft is in our regulations, and I'll read it so that everyone, so it's clear for everyone. An occupation or art requiring skillful use of the hands in the production of articles such as pottery, furniture, repair, weaving, cooking, etc., which articles are not mass-produced, carried on in a dwelling, occupied by a person or persons directly involved in the production and or sale of such work, and the production of which does not adversely affect the character of the neighborhood, create undue traffic, or constitute a normal retail operation. So cooking is included in home handicraft in our regulations.
This is
That's
the
why
type
we're-
that they had to use for the
But in
application.
small quantities.
Well,
Based on
this is, it would be a business, whatever, I mean, home handicraft industry. So, I mean, small quantities, I don't know, it doesn't really address the quantity level of cooking.
I believe it did in that.
It says are not mass produced.
Not mass.
Yeah, so, but that's sort of subjective. Quantity could be small at 1,000 units or 1 million units. I have no idea what a small quantity would be. But I know that they say not mass produced, so maybe not 15,000 bags of dog food.
Would a reduction in the hours and days of service impede your business?
I'm sorry.
If your hours were reduced and the number of days in operation, would it impede or hurt your business?
We
In other words,
no, we
if
could-
you could
in
only
fact, I'm not
operate
sure where
the-
Joe got that, because right in the application, I put 9 to 6.
7 days a week.
7
Yeah,
days,
it
7
just-
days a
it
week,
just
right, but you
seems-
said no hours.
It just seems a little excessive in a residential neighborhood.
Well,
to me.
again, you know, this is not a 24/7 operation. This is if
Well,
somebody
that's not what I'm
calls.
hearing. 7-day
Well,
operation.
It's if somebody calls in on a Saturday and wants.
Well, you don't control that, sir. I'm saying if we told you you couldn't do it, would that
Oh,
impede
no,
your
we
business?
do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, okay, all right,
Yeah.
that's what I'm
No,
asking you.
but it's
Wouldn't
just
put you out
that
of
if
business.
somebody's having a Super Bowl party on a Sunday and wants
Well,
to,
unfortunately, there aren't too many Super Bowls
Plenty
during
of
the
things.
year, type of thing. I'm just asking, would it put you out of business if we restricted your hours?
no.
Thank you.
So I got a question for you. So this picture was taken, I'm guessing, last winter. Did somebody think there was going to be a problem that we were going to be discussing to take pictures in the winter of water coming out of the ground there? Like, how did this come about?
Those photographs came about by Carmine Petrie because he was angered by the ice building up in front of his house. They have already put an abutment, if you notice, there's a cement abutment there, but it does not catch the water like it's supposed to catch it and direct it underneath his driveway. So he has to drive over this ice.
That's his driveway.
That's Carmine's driveway.
Our driveway is not on the road, it's on Crestwood.
Okay.
I mean, we can't really control
That-
where the water flows down.
Right.
The
So-
house is coming up, the house is built on ledge.
Like we had a lot of melting and freezing last year.
That's every year.
I had it at the bottom of my driveway.
All right.
Okay.
Can you identify yourself, please?
She already did.
Yeah, but you'll notice in that photograph, there's no ice anywhere else on that street,
Oh, that's the
just
same
in
week?
that location.
But to answer your question, there was
Yes.
a permit, like in December, that the parties.
Oh, could
submitted,
everybody
and
just
then
remember
on
to
hold.
identify themselves each time? Because Lisa, at the end, when she produces the record, she doesn't know.
She
you
just
know.
makes things up.
Yeah.
Well, that's where we will leave her. If you don't give just your name and just the street address, then we presume Guilford.
Yep.
But, yeah, that'd be
All right.
handy.
We applied for one in November because we produce our own sauces and our own dressings, and we were going to do it in that kitchen, and we were told by the town that the septic was not big enough and not sufficient. I would have to put an engineered system in. We have since found a co-packer, which is an outside organization that will bottle our stuff for us. And so we are just simply, this kitchen simply helps overflow of stuff of orders that we get into our business that we can't handle in the time frame that they need to be handled in.
But you open a new business tomorrow, don't you? I mean, it hasn't even started up yet.
What?
Your next business
It's open,
venture. Hickory Kitchen?
yeah.
So it was opening up, August 20th.
It was approved.
But Mike, I was answering the question, you said, why were there photos taken? Because he applied in November, and I think Carmen may have been getting ready to fight it in November, and when the ice came.
Well,
Not
what-
having it here is really unfortunate.
That's okay.
You know, nobody, once again, we have not been approached. I would be willing to work with anybody on this. And when my conversation with Carmen, he said it makes a lot of noise. I went over, the makeup air fan makes a ton of racket. I disconnected it. The exhaust fan actually runs at a decibel level less than her air conditioning unit.
So just so I'm clear, Welderwood runs right off of Westlake?
Yes, perpendicular to West.
And there's like a hill that goes down that road to like a little cul-de-sac, is that Welderwood?
Yeah, it goes down, curves around, and then it goes down to the cul-de-sac.
Yeah. And it's all residential, it's all, like, there are no open lots or anything, they're just houses.
All residential. It's an older neighborhood.
I'm Patricia Cawley, 99 Wilderwood Drive, and you're talking decibels, what it sounds, what it smells. I'm walking on the street, across the street, and I can hear it as I walk down the street, and I can smell it as well, whenever it was in operation within the past 2 years. So it's not just, Carmine and Beatrice have it the worst, because they're right on the property line, but it's not like you can't hear it or smell it anywhere else on the street.
So my question is,
in
did you hear it within the last 2 weeks? Because I only disconnected the second fan since.
So by disconnecting the fan, what does that do? Don't you need the second fan?
No.
Thank you, sir.
That's the map of the
You're
area.
going to have increased production of food if you don't need the second fan.
I don't produce that much food,
But
and
if
yes,
this-
I've already had it told to me that I don't need it. I will make adjustments for that makeup
But I'm
there
saying that
someplace else.
if the business would increase if it is allowed as far as the production of food, and it is a residential area, and this is a commercial enterprise. So the way I look at it, and you
Well-
already own, you already have an established.
You do realize that, I mean, the restaurant, and no, we're not running Casey's Pub out of there, but you do realize for the investment in that kitchen, it's not going away? I mean,
But
it's,
But that should then take it by consideration at the time that you made the investment. Without being-
well, no, that's fine. We made the investment originally as a test kitchen. It's still going to be a test kitchen. That's, yeah. Yeah. I have a letter from William Ravis, if you want me to read it, about property values or not?
Probably real good. Well, let's let this gentleman speak
Yep.
first, and then we'll get to the Ravis letter.
My name is Mike Manone, 201 Wilderwood Drive. I don't have a lot to say. I'm very much opposed to the restaurant or the kitchen being there. I have to admit, I'm not very knowledgeable on things like ventilation, sanitation, noise abatement, and smells. But this is where I live. I don't have to know about those things. This is the business. If it was my business, I would understand those things. Please take that into consideration, because as you pointed out, this is very much a residential area. There's no commercial things going on. It's our home. It's where we live. We don't want it here. Please take that into consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Christine Manone, 201 Wilderwood Drive. I'm married to him, and I don't have anything prepared either. But I wanted to comment on how you did say this is an older, you said it just a couple minutes ago, it's an older neighborhood. It is an older neighborhood. Almost every person on that street bought a house, built it from scratch with the builders. At the time, it was Archie Bailey, all the Baileys. They're our first homes. We've lived there for almost 37 years. We've all increased the value of our homes. We've all made improvements. We've added to those homes. They all look beautiful. We sit out on our decks. We sit out on our porches. We enjoy the quiet of that neighborhood. That's why we bought on a cul-de-sac. We don't want to have a business run out of our neighborhood. I don't think that a restaurant could open in our neighborhood. It wouldn't be able to be zoned. So why would we allow all this food to be prepared for these restaurants? Not one, doesn't sound like two, might even be, I know it's not a dog food business. I know she's making it for a dog. I'm not against people cooking for creative and fun purposes, but I don't want a commercial business in my neighborhood. And that's what I think this is.
Thank you. Why don't we have the Ravis letter now?
Just one point. You know, there was a business run out of that house until Kelly bought it. You know, she had clients, she saw clients and she had deliveries that we're not even going to have deliveries. And the person that lived at that house had 3 Harley Davidsons, talk about noise. I mean, we just moved in 2 years ago. You know, the business was already operational.
We're also on Crestwood. We're on the Crestwood Drive as a road. We're not even using Wilderwood. We don't use the cul-de-sac at all. That's not even where our driveway is.
This is from, as you just mentioned, Archie's daughter. My name is Susan Bailey Rice. I've been a realtor in the Connecticut shoreline for 13 years. I've grown up in Guilford and currently live here with my family. I'm writing this letter at the request of Kelly Carney of Wilderwood Drive in Guilford. In preparation for this meeting and permit, Kelly has planned and researched very well as she does with any business venture. She has taken into account the variables that could potentially affect relationships with neighbors and property values and has made sure to preventively plan ahead to be sure that her business is successful and relationships around her are positive. Given the specific details of her application, it is my professional opinion that the approval of her permit and the addition of her kitchen will not devalue her property, the neighbor's property, or the neighborhood. William Ravis.
Mr. Carney, what was the name of that person?
Susan Bailey Rice, Archie's daughter.
Bailey Rice. And what is her qualification?
She's been a realtor for 13 years, and Archie built quite a few of those houses in there. And
So Susan Bailey Rice, and she works at what realty?
William Ravis.
William Ravis, Susan Bailey Rice. Okay, got that? All right, anything else?
I'd like to say one thing.
Sir?
Again, Mike Malone, 201 Woodward Drive. I can get any realtor you want to get them to say, that's definitely going to take away from the property value. So I think that's not credible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Tom?
I'd like to, I don't know if I could do it now, but is it, given the regulations that we currently have now, because that's what we have to go by, is this allowed, what they're doing, is this allowed in a residential area?
It is by special permit.
By special permit.
Right. And as special permit, we can take into account all the things going on.
Right. Impact on the neighborhood, on the quality of life in the neighborhood, and so on.
Walter, what do you got?
I don't know, we have the academic development team here. Steve, Mark?
Sorry, what?
Oh, no, I was asking the members of the Economic Development Commission who were attending if they had comments. Sometimes they
Is there any more?
come forward and say
Any more
something.
neighbors want to speak in favor or against?
Sometimes the members of the Economic Development Commission come forward and say that something's going to be great.
Nothing? Yes, ma'am.
I think, and being a former business owner myself, and as I said, having 20+ years in the hospitality business, I think one of the things that's not clear to some of the neighbors here is, I'm talking personal, is what constitutes a commercial kitchen. It doesn't mean a commercial business is running an entity. It just provides that it is zoned such that a health inspector can come in and make sure that the food is prepared properly, there's proper sanitization. The food trucks that we see in this area and all throughout New Haven also have to work out of commercial kitchens. They can't just cook food in a house and put it on a truck and sell it. So maybe it's, if there's any question, it's wise to have someone who's an expert on what a commercial kitchen constitutes, because it doesn't mean you're going to run a business out of that, and that it can be verified.
Thank you, ma'am. Sir?
Mike Malone, 201 Woodward Drive. I'm not confused about what's going on in this kitchen.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'd like to move it along. Does anyone have anything else pertinent?
Move to close this portion of the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, can I get a motion to open the proposed
Ron.
amendment? What?
Oh, Mr. Chairman, just a point of order for the audience. We divide up the public hearing and the actual votes, which sometimes creates some confusion for some members of the public. So we're conducting all 4 public hearings right now, and then after those have closed, we will be in our regular meeting. This allows us to shunt off a lot of members of the public before we actually vote, which has been, sometimes convenient for this commission in terms of public pressure. But I just wanted to let you know that we will either vote or continue. We will either vote on or continue each one of these items in our regular meeting in item B. So if you have stamina. you can stay for the vote.
Stay here with us. We do this every 2
I
weeks.
had a very memorable experience where we closed the public hearing and then moved the vote on a light-up billboard next to the diner to the next meeting. It happened to allow me to review the application more closely, but it may have also functioned to move the 86 people who were angry about it out of the room before people attempted to vote on it. So,
But we're
thank
going
you.
to try and get somewhere tonight.
It's not here or there.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is both here and there, Commissioner DeAndrea.
Yeah. So before we start having more, did we get a motion to open the public hearing on this proposal?
I'm not sure. I just called point of order.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor? George?
Aye.
Thank you. This is a proposal to amend the zoning code by creating provisions for allowing medical marijuana facilities. There's a copy of the text of this amendment. We have multiple copies of it for anyone who wants a copy. Hopefully you're familiar with the language. I know the commission members are. This proposal was actually drafted by the zoning committee of the commission. It's based on a presumption and based on advice by legal counsel that because the state of Connecticut in its wisdom have legalized certain types of marijuana facilities or facilities for production of and dispensing and sale of medical marijuana, that it's desirable for local governments to regulate, pursuant to zoning, the location and other uses that might be associated with medical marijuana facilities as defined by the state of Connecticut. One option for the town would be not to regulate medical marijuana facilities. That would not mean, in the opinion of legal experts that the commission has consulted, that would not mean that medical marijuana facilities would not be allowed in Guilford. That would mean that we would have no regulation of medical marijuana facilities, and that it's possible that a vendor or developer seeking to create or develop a medical marijuana facility would be able to do so without benefit of regulations. So it's desirable, the premise of what we're talking about tonight is based on the fact that the state in its wisdom has legalized medical marijuana and that the location of medical marijuana facilities is subject to both state permitting and also local zoning. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is a proposal to regulate these types of facilities. We do that through three separate amendments to the zoning code. The first one creates a definition for two types of facilities. One's called a medical marijuana dispensary facility, and the other is called a medical marijuana production facility. Obvious difference between the two. The first is a place where medical marijuana is dispensed, and the second is a place where medical marijuana is produced. The definitions that we've included in our proposed regulation are the definitions that the state has also employed. Medical marijuana dispensary facility is a place of business where medical marijuana may be dispensed and sold at retail to qualifying patients and primary caregivers, and for which the state of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection has issued a dispensary facility permit under Public Act 12-55 and sections 21A, 408 to 21A-408Q, inclusive of the Connecticut General Statutes. So I think that's fairly clear what a medical marijuana dispensary facility is. The second definition is a medical marijuana production facility, and that's a secure indoor facility where the production of medical marijuana occurs and is operated by a person to whom the state of Connecticut Department of Consumer Protection has issued a production facility permit pursuant to these same laws. So we create these two so-called uses, land uses, in our zoning code. as defined, as I've just reviewed. Then we have we are also proposing to amend what we call Table 5, which is the table in the zoning code that lists all the various things that are allowed in commercial and industrial zones within the town of Guilford. And we've created two new uses, so-called uses, land uses. One is a medical marijuana dispensary facility, as we've just heard, the definition. And the second one is a medical marijuana production facility. The medical marijuana dispensary facility is allowed by special permit. Those of you who are here tonight have heard about what a special permit is. It's allowed by special permit in all of our commercial zones, the so-called PV, PV2, TS, TS2, SC, and SCW zones. Those are all the commercial zones in Guilford, with the exception of the zone around the Guilford Green. So a medical marijuana dispensary facility would be allowed by special permit in any one of those zones. The commission in drafting this followed the same pattern as we allow for retail sales of liquor. Retail sale of liquor is also allowed by special permit in those same zones. We also then allow medical marijuana production facilities, also via an amendment to Table 5, by special permit in our industrial zones. And then we add a new section with respect to criteria that the commission would use to evaluate a proposed medical marijuana facility, along with all the other criteria that are part of the special permit review. And we say that no medical marijuana dispensary facility shall be located within 1,000 feet of any other medical marijuana dispensary facility. This follows the same type of language that's used for retail sale of liquor stores. So if one is located somewhere in Guilford, there cannot be another one any closer than 1,000 feet. And we also and these facilities can be no closer than 500 feet to a school, church, temple, or other place of worship, or playground, park, or child daycare facility. That's the extent of this proposed regulation, and I think it's fair to say that this is not intended to suggest that medical marijuana is desirable. This doesn't take any position as to whether it's a desirable thing or not. The state of Connecticut, in its wisdom, has already said that medical marijuana is desirable. This does not in any way bless the use of marijuana through this regulation. All it does is protect the town of Guilford from the location of a medical marijuana facility without benefit of any regulations. So that's the purpose and intent of all of this.
That's great. Thanks, George.
You're welcome.
So this is a public hearing. Do you guys have any comments on this real quick, or, we've read this a number of times. Does anyone here want to?
I did mention that, which you're aware of, maybe the audience isn't, that because this is a zoning text amendment, this public hearing will be continued again to another meeting, which will be the, in all likelihood, the second meeting in September by regulation.
Right.
George, what's the difference between a medical marijuana and regular stuff?
I don't know.
Well,
Legality.
what are we discussing here? We don't know.
Well,
It
medical
hasn't been
marijuana
defined.
is dispensed by prescription. The other stuff you buy on the street. Doctors prescribe it. It's
That's
meant
not a
to
very
treat
good
medical-
definition.
Could be coming off the same plan.
I'm not. I don't know. I mean, the state of Connecticut has
treated as something.
that's treated it, right?
Just one more point for the public before it starts. This came out of the zoning subcommittee, of which I am a member, and we tried to closely mirror the regulation that Madison came up with. Madison went through a very fraught process, as we sort of expect this to be as well. Madison also pulled off, or rather imposed, a couple of moratoria in a row in order to completely ban marijuana while they were reviewing these sorts of regulations. And that was a very clever procedural move, in my opinion, on the part of Madison, because there were a defined number of permits in the state of Connecticut. I believe it's what?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. And by the time those moratoria expired, Madison was, all of the permits had already been given out in other locations. There are no current permits in the state, but there's absolutely no reason to believe that there won't be more in the future.
There will be more, and right now there's one in Branford. And a key thing to remember is that this is medical marijuana, which I'd like to take a second and explain. We all know what marijuana is, and what medical marijuana is the state has approved certain strains of marijuana at certain strengths to treat, I think it's 14 different afflictions, and they can be cancer, glaucoma, post-traumatic stress. And in order to get it, you have to go to a doctor, a regular doctor, who has to write a card saying that you are a candidate for this. The state then certifies you as being a candidate for this. And then you go to this facility and you see a registered pharmacist who prescribes a certain amount per week or per day of a certain type of marijuana. It's closely regulated. You can't go in here and say, gee, I want to buy an ounce. You need a prescription. You need to make appointments before you go there. You will be seen by a medical professional. You will be counseled. After you take it, you'll be interviewed again to see how it affected you, and a decision will be made if there's something more fitting for what you need. So in no way is this like driving in the streets of New Haven and picking up a nickel bag. This is a completely different thing. So, the key thing to remember is that these are sick people who are suffering. And, it's unlikely that we're going to see additional permits anytime soon. With one in Branford, which services all the way past New Haven and all the way out to Old Saybrook. They have over 1,000 patients. They see lots and lots of patients every day. They do a lot of business, and they do it correctly. They're inspected by the state all the time. You can't just walk in there. You can walk in a certain area in there. It's tightly controlled. It's not at all anything that you would think would be a criminal activity. So anyway, let me open it up.
Before you do that, can I just elaborate just a little bit more? One thing I said, I'm going to make it totally clear. There's a risk if we don't regulate medical marijuana like this or in some similar manner, which is that the courts or the state, in their wisdom, will determine that these facilities could be allowed in any commercial zone, subject to site plan approval or some other lesser authority, regulatory-wise, than the special permit provision. That's why it's important for us, we feel, to regulate this by special permit. It's possible that if we don't allow it at all, that we could prevail if there was a proposed developer who wanted to create one of these and they had the state permit, we could prevail and say, no, they're not allowed anywhere, but that's a big risk. And the best advice we've got so far is that we shouldn't really take that risk. The other thing is that you may note, and as I explained, this is allowed in all the commercial zones in Guilford, which are basically along Route 1. It's not allowed on the green in that commercial zone. We could reduce the we could restrict this to a lesser amount or number of commercial zones. The difficulty in doing that is the fear of the people who either live in or adjacent to that particular zone. Why are they being targeted for this undesirable land use as opposed to the other commercial zones? So, and I think that's the rationale for allowing this, again, by special permit in all of our commercial zones, rather than trying to pick one like Route 1 West, which is the so-called TS2 zone, and say it's allowed there, but not anywhere else, or the east side or the central area. So that's why we made the provision for all the commercial zones.
Thank you, George. Anyway, come on up. Come on up.
My name is Bo Hume. I live at 465 Clabber Hill Road. I'm a member of the Day organization, and I've spent a lot of time involved with the issues of addiction that exist in Guilford. I had a daughter as a sophomore in high school who became addicted to crack cocaine, blew her childhood, big impact on the family. And as a result, knock on wood, she dug her way out. She's done fine. I really admire her. But as a result, I really got interested in the issues of addiction and what happens to people. And there is a very real social problem in Guilford, just as there is in every other town in the country. I'm speaking in opposition to the proposed amendments to the P&Z regs and urge that you take a much more restrictive approach. Your approach to these regulations would be sending a message to our kids from Guilford's town government, and we're asking you to join with the effort of our Day coalition and to make the final regs much more restrictive. In May, the Madison P&Z Commission chose a much more restrictive approach than the one under consideration here tonight. So I know, Walter, you mentioned what Madison had done, and they have just two teeny little areas, one on the side of Clinton and one on the side of Guilford, where they allow it. That's the kind of message that I think Guilford's P&Z should send on this issue. Guilford Developmental Assets for Youth Day is a community group working to reduce teen abuse of alcohol and drugs. For a number of years, we've been working to change the teen culture via a coalition with many community groups, including schools, town agencies, churches, youth sports leagues, scouts, and other nonprofits. Never occurred to us to link up with P&Z, so we're here tonight to do that. Officially, we're part of the town's Youth and Family Services Agency. Our objective is to work through existing community organizations so that our youth receive the message about substance abuse from many sources in the community. We also encourage the coalition of organizations to help build the personal development strengths which protect kids from damage. This effort has had enthusiastic support, not only from the groups which are part of the coalition, but also from town leaders and town agencies. Joe Mazza and Carl Balistraci before him, and Gene Bishop before him, have played a key role in our efforts, as have the Guilford Schools, Park and Rec, the library, the police department. Tonight we're asking Planning and Zoning to join the effort. As you consider the medical marijuana amendments to your regs, as a town agency, you're sending a message to Guilford's residents. We're asking you to help build a more healthy environment for our children. Our objective is for our youth to be surrounded by the shared expectations of every adult they encounter. We want our kids to know the community values its youth as a town asset. The proposed amendments to the regs could and should be much more restrictive. I mentioned the Madison effort. I've attached a map of what Madison did to my comments here. It certainly is possible for your proposed regs to be more restrictive. I'm not going to argue the pros and cons of medical marijuana tonight, but everyone knows it's been a stalking horse for full legalization of marijuana. Many people think marijuana is sort of funny, and use is celebrated in the media and by entertainers. There are powerful forces behind the effort with a great deal of money at stake. The key market for the marijuana effort is kids in their teens and 20s. The health dangers, including addiction, demotivation, and brain impacts all have more severe health impacts on kids than on adults. Teen use of marijuana is clearly a pathway for people who become addicted to other drugs. Many people, especially teens, have no knowledge of the growing body of research on the adverse health effects of marijuana on teens. Many in our community somehow believe that the serious teen drug problem which exists throughout the U.S. does not exist in Guilford. We have data which shows how serious the problem is here. Surveys were conducted of all Guilford students in grades 7 through 12 in 2010, 2012, and 2014. All the data is available on our website. It's worthitguilford.org. The results show that we're making progress, but there's still a long way to go. Most kids are clean. Many are starting on a risky path. We estimate that at least 100 Guilford teens have a full-blown addiction to alcohol or drugs, including heroin, and we know the numbers will increase as they reach their 20s. This is not a trivial problem, and there's nothing funny or entertaining about it. Guilford kids die of suicide and overdoses. Others disappear into the disaster of an addiction. This need not happen. We do not have the violence which confronts urban youth, but we must not pretend that Guilford is somehow exempt from substance abuse. Our teens know this. Last spring, Day invited Chris Herron, a former Boston Celtic who struggled with addiction, to speak at Guilford High School to the students in the afternoon and to the community in the evening. The Day youth decided to implement Herron's Project Purple and to turn Guilford purple via purple ribbons on snowmen, trees, and vehicles, purple tree lights, and of course, wristbands, t-shirts, and so on. There were a ton of purple shirts in the gym when Herron spoke, and many of our kids were surprised to see they were not the only kid in town who was clean, but that the sober kids are in the majority. I believe the proposed regulations are an opportunity for the Commission to join in the efforts of all the groups that are part of the Day effort, and to join in the effort of our teens who are leading Project Purple, and to draft medical marijuana regulations that are as restrictive as possible. Thanks for your consideration.
Well, I had a quick question for you. What we have right now is pretty much mirroring Madison, except for, Madison is much more restrictive. Where would you propose that we limit in the commercial zone, marijuana dispensaries or production?
I mean,
Yeah,
you guys are the expert. You have to make the tough choices.
Yeah.
But my recommendation would be two teeny weeny little areas, one on the Branford side and one on the Madison side. The point is.
So we look exactly like Madison if you pull those over.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Madison will tell you they were trying to keep it from happening. They didn't want it in their town.
They succeeded.
And they're hoping that nobody will end up putting it in those areas.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly are receptive to location, suggestions. But one of the problems that we have been encountering consistently is certain areas of the town feel slighted when it's just put in their zone. So that's why the way it's drafted right now includes all the commercial zones. And we feel as though with the 500, when you take into account the 500 feet church or school or playground or park or daycare facility and the 1,000 feet from one another, it really does limit the location of medical marijuana spots.
Do you think, George,
No, I
can have that?
Okay, I really disagree with that.
Yeah, it'd be helpful.
If you make it any commercial area, that is not being restrictive. I mean, you can't say that that's restrictive. You're opening it up as wide as you possibly can. I mean, you don't have it in residential areas, but you know, this is not a restrictive draft that you've got now. And it's the wrong message to send the kids.
Could you help me make the connection between what this is, which is regulating medical marijuana, with your, and what's the problem? How does this affect? How does this affect how the kids are going to view? I mean, I'm not sure I understand the connection between this and what you're talking about, which is drug addiction in teenagers. This is for a very specific, to me, this is for a very specific, helpful thing for certain kinds of people that have disease.
Look, I won't argue that issue. I totally disagree. I'm not going to argue it because it wouldn't be appropriate here.
Well,
But when the legislature adopted medical marijuana, and you look at the survey asking kids, do you think there's a risk from using marijuana yourself as a kid, going out and buying it illegally and smoking it? Big change. You know, before that, most kids thought it was darn risky. After the legislature acted, bam. Most kids think it's healthy, it's medicine.
Could you
Bad
Can you
choice.
document that right now? Do you have that study with you?
Can I say something to answer that question?
Well, I want you to speak too, and I do. Are you done, sir?
They'll bring you back.
I'll bring you back up. I just want to give everyone a chance to,
Yeah, sure,
because
sure.
they may say something that you might want to say too.
This is, you know, attached is the map
Good.
with Madison.
Peter?
Danielle's going to come up with me, Dan. So, my name's Peter Palumbo. I live at 120 Lovers Lane, and I co-chair today with Lisa. This is Danielle. She's one of our youth leaders. I didn't prepare anything, but to answer your question, one of our survey questions, and it's not going to be exact, asked the youth from 7th to 12th grade what they thought, what was their perception of what was worse, smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, or pot. And their perception, the youth's perception in this community was I'm sorry, I want to get this straight in my head, that in their perception, based on what they're being told at home, was cigarette smoking was the worst for them, and marijuana was not. And the youth here are here to tell you their involvement in this, that they feel that allowing any kind of marijuana is not good for our community. So medical marijuana, Mr. Commissioner, back to what you said, is for people with a health issue that are being treated with very specific illnesses. My dad had thyroid cancer 4 years ago. My sister Lisa had ovarian cancer. They were treated in a hospital. They were given chemotherapy. It was under very strict usage in a hospital. Pain medication is supposedly cared for in that same way, but we have a pain medication problem in our community also. So our feeling, and I think I could speak for everybody in Day, is that even though it's regulated, there's going to be a loophole for something else or some way of it to be abused. And that's the biggest part for us and myself personally that I want to speak about. I'm sad for the people that have to struggle with these health issues, and this very well may help them, but we're concerned about the regulations and how it can be abused. We have heroin in our community. We have a prescription drug problem in our community. We have a marijuana problem in our community. In our police department, we have a lockbox that I think just before Chief Tarbell retired, they had 55 pounds of prescription drugs that were brought in, locked in that container for the police department to dispose of properly, that's floating around in our community, that people wanted to get out of their house because that is a problem in our community. So I'm speaking, as you can tell, against this. I'm asking the board to please, 500 feet, 1,000 feet, maybe commercial might then take you to residential. From residential, it might take you to a playground, and this may never come into our community. But I just hope that there's every opportunity you can find to discourage it coming here at all.
So, Peter, we have sort of, we have sort of specific technical tools at our disposal. And listen, I assume this building's not on fire, right?
Probably a fire.
Yeah.
It could be.
But they'll be here in a second if it is.
We're right around
the problem, so if there's a way for zoning to have a substantive impact on where sales are made, for instance, and on a grander scale, certainly, you know, Bridgeport and New York City have had a fair amount of success using not really so much zoning as, you know, sort of appropriation of whole areas, or, you know, raising bad areas and things like that. Guilford, those tools don't seem as applicable to our community, but it may very well be possible that there's a zoning regulation that could have a real impact on how onerous it is for somebody like a dealer or somebody else to actually, you know, sell a certain type of drug in an area. Here, though, what we've got specifically before us is the medical marijuana already exists. And if we get too tight, we're probably going to pop the balloon, meaning if we create regs, like if we took a crayon and just wrote no on the paper, we probably are allowing it everywhere. We probably have allowed it everywhere. Now, it doesn't have the same kind of free speech concerns that we dealt with the last time that we were crafting regulations like this. With adult entertainment industries, they actually have a First Amendment right, and I don't think there's a First Amendment right to pot, which is great. But, you know, at some point, we can have, for instance, fewer zones. Or we could have zones in very specific areas. Madison tucked away a couple of their zones pretty cleverly. The one between the highway and Route 1 that you can't get to is nice. But and with adult entertainment, we came up with hours of operation, which has a sort of completely poisonous effect on adult entertainment, obviously, because
9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Right. Yeah, we couldn't do that, but even the one that we came up with, you know, ends up, you know, really cutting in heavily. So someone chooses another place. Branford's already got one of these, so we're not the ideal. I mean, I'm no expert in how this market works, but if you're just going by geography, it's already somewhat unlikely that we will have the next one. The reason I'm sort of able to talk about this more openly is because there's a total lack of First Amendment right, and we're in this public hearing. But ultimately, if there are additional constraints that you see somewhere else that are appropriate and clearly legal, we would absolutely entertain those. We will re-notice this in the paper, go back through an additional 2 public hearings, and then make it so. Okay. So right now, what we can do is we could, for instance, chop out certain zones, but that's all we could do on this sheet that's before us. Understood. I think.
Okay.
I mean, we can't throw additional stuff in, but we can easily go back, start over, and then 6 weeks later, whatever new constraint has been found would be a reg.
Okay. And 6 weeks really isn't a big deal for this.
Right, we're not in there are no permits that exist in the world.
If I could just ask you the same question I asked Bo, if it was up to you, where would you put the medical marijuana?
Again, I have to leave that up to you guys. Hospital.
Hospital.
Yeah, I mean.
Wherever we have a zoning for hospital, or at the hospital?
At the hospital.
Okay.
You know, again, I don't know, that's, you guys have a tough job in front of you if and when this does come up, and if there's a permit, or, you know, somebody comes to Guilford for it. Anyway, Danielle, I'm sure, has something to say, as do some other people in the audience, so I don't want to take all the time.
Hi.
Sorry, I took all the time. My bad.
I'm Danielle Ott. I live at 197 Village Fund Road. And I don't want to tell you how to do your job, which is not my place because I don't know everything. But I just want to help you kind of understand the decisions you make and how they affect the youth. I know, like, going past the vape loft every day in Guilford is kind of, I don't know, it changes my view on our town because I've always thought of it as this perfect little community shielded from everything. But seeing this kind of ugly, I don't know if that's the right term, storefront that's been placed in our community by the adults who are supposed to be our role models, they're supposed to make all the right choices in our eyes, it's kind of a different view that I get on Guilford. And I know a medical marijuana dispensary, although they have great restrictions and regulations, and kids might not necessarily be getting the marijuana from these medical dispensaries, the message that we're sending to the youth by having them right in a commercial district where they may pass by, if it's 500 feet from school, you may walk by it on your way home. Seeing that every day in our town and knowing that the adults in this community who are supposed to be the perfect role models will definitely have an effect on our perception of how dangerous marijuana is. And I just want everyone to know that you all have a huge effect on our life and as high schoolers, because I know that adults kind of stereotype teens as all the same group, and we kind of do that to adults, and we think the whole town is everyone in it, and those choices reflect the whole town, if you get what I'm saying. And it's just a very dangerous decision to make because it does have a major effect. Even though we do have one in Brantford, that's not our town. And that is a huge difference of it being in Guilford versus Brantford. So I just wanted to put that up there.
One of the other bits of results that came from our survey that the kids brought to our attention, and this is really important in our meetings for day, is listening to what the kids have to say. One of the other bits of information that came from that is that kids don't feel valued in their community. And that was a big part of the results from our survey information. Again, like Bo said, you can see that online. So I think what Danielle's trying to say is, speaks to that. And we've worked really hard with Day to try to reverse that and get the youth to know that they are valued and we do listen to their concerns. The work that we did for Project Purple, I was blessed to be able to take a group of 6 or 8 kids, 2 or 3 different vehicles to probably 8 different meetings and organizations throughout the community just for them to speak to the community about Project Purple. So the community needs to value the youth's perception and opinion a lot more than we do.
Danielle, then where would you like?
You're on your own now, Danielle.
If it was up to me, I wouldn't put any medical
Well, you
marijuana
realize the
dispensaries.
problem, though,
Yeah.
I don't know if we legally can say no.
Mhm.
So if our arms are tied, do you have any opinion on where you think that it would be okay to go?
I think putting it out of the way where kids don't normally pass, and especially not near a school, because even in elementary school, if I passed that every day, I would grow up to think, oh, it's okay, the community put it there, I passed it every day. So just trying to keep it on the outskirts and not really in the eyes of the youth especially is really important, because the vape loft is right there by like where I go get Chinese food, and it's kind of a weird situation.
Good, thank you. Would anyone?
My name is Andre Kish, and I live at 60 Davis Drive. I'm also a youth member of the Day Group, and I want to voice my opposition for this. As Danielle said earlier, the youth perception in this community of marijuana and of other drugs is not very good. marijuana is, as the youth, we consider, as the survey said, marijuana to be the least detriment to us of cigarettes and alcohol, over cigarettes and alcohol. And the regulations that are proposed to be in place now with these amendments, it makes to us at least, it makes marijuana seem safer and something that we can use and then not get hurt, which is not true. I know there are a lot of legal hurdles you guys have to jump because of the state of Connecticut and rights that medical marijuana is allowed to be sold, and that's a given. But I just want to reiterate that as the youth of Guilford, if stricter regulations aren't enforced, I personally am afraid that the situation with marijuana and other drugs at Guilford High School will become worse because of the perception that marijuana is safe. That's basically it.
Thank you very much.
Joe Nugent, 423 New Whitfield Street. Joe Nugent, 423 New Whitfield Street. I admire the town for being proactive. That's the important thing. Any way you look at it's going to happen. There will be marijuana dispersed within the towns in the state of Connecticut. All we have to do is look at our history. Prohibition. What happened back in the 20s. You eliminate it. People talk, the young people talk about, well, you know, alcohol is available, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can close all the bars, all the restaurants, all the liquor stores. People still find the source of liquor. That's what happened in the 20s. It created another industry, which was not a very good industry. A question for Walter, who was on the subcommittee. Item 43. Is there any reason why 42 and 43 cannot be combined in the same facility? Why can't you have the dispensary where it's grown? Marijuana is not grown in a massive scale. You know, it's small, complex buildings, et cetera, et cetera. Is there any reason why the end user cannot go to where the production is? So it would be in the same zone.
And that would allow us to move it to the industrial zone.
That's correct.
Which would be off of Route 1 essentially, which is sort
That's
of
correct.
one of our main goals.
I don't know that the state allows that. It's fairly tightly regulated that you have to go see a registered pharmacist, and he has to prescribe that.
The facilities themselves have to be separate, but we don't have to put them in separate types of zones.
Well, the one thing that I would be concerned about is there are two separate licenses. So I just don't know, we would then be requiring, I don't know if the licenses are sold or distributed to growers and distributors. I wonder if you have to be one or the other, and if that is the case, then I don't know how we could combine it. If it's not the case.
But he's not talking about actually vertically integrating the industry. He's talking about us putting putting both of the definitions into a single set of zones.
I think I understand.
And then they ultimately, of course, there would never be both together in the same place.
No,
Go ahead.
Why can't they be together? That's what I'm saying.
Well, what I'm saying-
Yeah, I mean, think of a brew pub or think of a brewery. You know, the product is made, but it's also sold at the front door. You know,
The legalization of alcohol has developed across a couple of millennia.
Yeah.
I don't know if we...
I just don't know right now. I think that we might be effectively eliminating all medical marijuana dispensaries or growers by combining the two. I'm not sure, though. That would be something that we would have to
Well, they
look
can be
into.
separate facilities in those zones. In other words, there could be a dispensary in an industrial zone rather than commercial.
Well, that's not Joe. Joe is saying, why can't it be in one business?
Yeah, he's saying like a brew, which I mean, I think that that's a very reasonable thing. I'm just not entirely sure.
if I could grow, I mean, if I could grow pot or marijuana in my basement in New Haven with fluorescent lights and all that, I mean, you could put a small facility, manufacturing facility on Boston Street,
I
someplace,
think
right?
people
Route
don't do
1,
that.
right?
People don't do that, though.
Oh, they don't? Okay. Click your heels
I
together,
think
you'll
the
be back in
issue is-
Kansas.
I think the issue, though, the real issue is whether it's a good idea or not, the law may not allow that.
Right.
So the
But
state
we
of
could
Connecticut
reduce
is
the number of
dictating then
zones.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's heavily regulated.
that they have to be separate?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure that they do because like Richard is saying, you need to be a pharmacist to dispense them. And so we're talking about I mean, I'm sure you need pharmaceutical license to be a
Enterprising
grower.
pharmacist could also be a producer.
Sure, I'm sure that you
They
need
have
to
to
be.
get a license to do that.
I don't know.
So they only have, I think there was only 4 growing licenses in Connecticut that
Right.
were sold, that were distributed out back last year, and there were like 16 dispensary licenses, and it's probably going to double. You know, you're probably going to get about another 4 more growing licenses and probably another 16 dispensary licenses. And I don't think, though, that they go together at this point. I could see that happening in the future, but I don't know if what we would be doing would be effectively eliminating, you know, medical marijuana facilities in Guilford with that language.
We could always revisit it and do that. And you know, that you know, everybody that's listening probably needs to be aware that at some point, you know, Connecticut is one of those states that's heading in the direction of legalization for recreational purposes. And with that being said, I had read several articles about how Connecticut is anticipating distributing recreational marijuana at their dispensaries as a way of regulating it and taxing it. So that's on the table too. We might as well just talk about it all. But right now, it's limited strictly to prescriptive use under the care and supervision of a doctor and a pharmacist. I get what the kids are saying, that it sends a message out. You know, we allow alcohol, which is far more destructive. I'd love to see alcohol limited in very strict ways too. But thank you. Brilliant.
Richard, I understand what the students are saying. I think it's not that it has to do with destructive nature. It's more, it desensitizes them.
Right.
to
No,
it.
exactly.
Yeah, and you know, that's something that I think that we can try to work on in terms of.
So where would you like to see it done?
Where would I mean, honestly, I'm very comfortable with it being in all the zones because I don't want to alienate the East End, the West End, or any part of Guilford, because I think it's ridiculous to put one part and say, okay, this is our dumping area. This is where we're going to put all the
and that's
adult
the risk we
entertainment.
run.
Yeah, so I think that being in all the commercial zones, but I do think that we can maybe tweak the distances from schools and parks and from one another into making sure that really effectively that it's almost impossible for a student to be walking home from one of the schools and walk by it. I think that's
agree.
something that we could do.
I think that's probably a good idea. You know, someone was talking about, I think Walter was talking about hours of operation for adult entertainment, and I'm pretty sure that the hours of operation for medical dispensaries is regulated by state, not, you know, certainly not something we could say. Go ahead.
My name
Reverend.
is Sarah Barasco. I live at 10 Indian Cove Road in town. I'm also the minister at First Congregational Church. My question is, I also want to start by saying thank you for being proactive in this, and I would hate to be in your seat right now and hate to make those decisions. I'm also thankful to see that other meetings are equally as chaotic as the ones at church. So I feel good about that. You've boosted my morale. But what I want to ask is it possible to limit the number of dispensaries that would be in town? Is that at all possible? Could you limit the number of permits that you would be willing to grant? And if so, could we also revisit the possibility of it being in an industrial zone? I would love for you to have it in my backyard. 2 hours a day. If we could only limit it to 1 and it would be in my backyard, I would be happy to have it there if that was the only one we would have. But the desensitization is not to be underestimated because it is those things that we see in medicine cabinets that kids are experimenting with and becoming addicted to. And so if we say this is now legal, then we're also saying, well, you know, it's got to be okay for some people, so why wouldn't it be okay for me? So I do worry about that quite a bit, and I hear some of your sensitivity to that and some of your concern around that as well. So please consider the limitation of the number of permits,
Obviously, the location of where these things are really does make a tremendous impact. I'm not so sure we would completely pop the balloon if we took a crayon on the paper like you said and wrote no. I'd love to see us do that, but if not, could we also say no to recreational marijuana? If we had to say yes to a dispensary and it wasn't in a hospital setting, or at CVS, or at Walgreens, could we say no to recreational use? I mean, it's a dilemma that Colorado is facing right now with the edibles. Looks like candy, tastes like candy, doesn't have the same effect. So please consider as much restraint as possible as you go about your work, and I do appreciate all that you're doing.
Well, thank you. You know, you bring up a valid point in that desensitization is a critical thing. It also is an opportunity for the people who are watching this on TV and everybody here to reach out to their kids and open a discussion. You know, we're talking about medical marijuana, but you know, certainly drug use in Guilford is extreme. I think that even if we regulate the heck out of this, marijuana can pretty much be bought anywhere in Guilford.
Not here.
Right, okay.
Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Come on down.
You get flags. Yeah. Poor guy stuck himself out.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark Wasserman. I live at 167 Glenwood Drive. Also, for the record, it should be noted that I am a commissioner on the Economic Development Council. However, I am not representing that for this particular discussion, just as a resident. First of all, I thank you for your work and your proactive in getting this in the regulations. It is important. It is a legal issue, and I do understand that. All night you've been asking for ideas, and I have a couple for you. My personal problem is not with the production facilities. Those are indoors. Those are contained. Those are heavily regulated. I don't have a problem.
And heavily guarded.
And heavily
in New
guarded.
Haven.
They should be. They should be guarded.
Terrifying.
My problem is with point 3 for the dispensing facilities. I don't know if anybody has ever been to California. Anybody is, in particular, Muscle Beach, which is really weed beach. It really is. The dispensaries are right next to each other. You do need a prescription, but let's face it, it doesn't happen. The problem that I really have is with the paraphernalia that goes with it. Okay? These are devices that are used, they are put on display, there are symbols in the windows, and let's face it, we really don't want a storefront filled with that, even if it is by prescription only, if the state, further down the line, legalizes marijuana, all of those dispensaries instantly turn into shops. So that's more of what my concern is. So specifically in the proposed amendment for 273-81A, no medical marijuana dispensary facility shall be located within 1,000 feet of any other dispensary and no closer than 500 feet to a school, church, temple, other place of worship, or playground, park, or child daycare facility. Please add municipal buildings to that. Any government buildings located within the town will also help to restrict the distance. Second of all, I don't care if they're next door to each other. That's fine as long as they're all away from these other places. So the 1,000 feet is fine between dispensaries. However, the 500 feet is not. That should be increased to a minimum of whatever the allowable walking distance to school is. So I don't know, sorry I did not do my homework, but if you live within a certain distance of any school, you're allowed to walk to school. So whatever that is, it should be double that. This way that completely eliminates any of the kids walking to school, walking past one of these facilities. Either that or I would say personally within a mile of any of these would make it ultimately restricted. That may be excessive, but 2,500 feet would be a good start. Whichever is the greater of the two, 2,500 feet or double the walking distance, allowable walking distance to school. Does that make any sense?
Sure. What else you got?
What else do you need? I'll give you whatever you need.
So you know, I'm picturing what you're saying, and let's say someone, you know, up near, I don't know, near Prospect Hill off Route 77 wants to walk to Adams.
Yep.
So they would walk down Route 77 and walk across US Route 1. No, they wouldn't get to US Route 1. So you would want this regulated away from Route 77 as the pathway to the school.
Let's say the other way from Fair Street.
Yeah.
Coming up Fair Street across Route 1 to Adams.
So you would want this like on the other side of Route 95 going towards the west side of town, and you would want this on the other side of like Big Wide.
No, the zones that you have them in are fine. I have no problem with the zones that they're in. What I have a problem with is the distance that you're allowing them to
Yeah,
be near the school.
I'm trying to figure out that distance and where it would limit it to.
Well, we'd have to plot that out in order to see that. I'd be happy to help with that. If you wanted my help with that, I'd be happy to do that.
Well, one of the great things that we did is we changed things like this to a 2-meeting system so that people who have input like you're about to give us on the next meeting
Absolutely.
will have an opportunity to come back with it after hearing everything we've had to discuss. It's a much better way of doing it. So we have more input from the community. So yeah, if you want to come back with that and come up with ideas, we'd certainly like to hear it. And you know, it's important. I started the meeting by saying that we appreciate your input, and we do. You know, we want to try and carry out your wishes. So it's great that you're here, and please bring it, and I'd appreciate it.
And also to the community, I in no way endorse this any way whatsoever. However, if one of those facilities should want to come to town, use your right to protest. Protest peacefully, of course, and demonstrate at the proposed locations. This has worked in the past. This is your right. I encourage it. I'll be there with you. It's not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Sure.
Who else? This gentleman.
Dave Knapp, 65 Water Street, Guilford. Question. Is it possible for your commission to specify not only one lot or area or even one building or complex where you'd say, this is where we're going to allow it and that only? And is that possible? I don't know.
Where would you suggest that?
Well, someplace on Route 1, probably in the farthest distance possible, where the least people would be
Down by
visiting.
the Tractor Supply. Near the line, town line.
Yeah, we should go to the Guilford line, or the
Bradford line.
Bradford line, or the Madison line. I lived in Madison for a while, so it's okay to do it there.
I think the legal issue. I think the legal issue is that if you do this in a way so that you effectively make it impossible to put one in town, then the town ends up in a legal mess.
There's probably some truth to that. It's
That
not
was
First
true with
Amendment
adult
protected.
entertainment because they have clearly defined constitutional rights. This, obviously the state is the boss of us, just to be clear.
Yep.
The state is in charge. We are technically a very, very low entity in the executive branch of the state of Connecticut.
Grassroots club. Doesn't get any lower. We're the bottom.
In the dirt, as you can see.
As it should be.
But so there's but you know, this is sort of new stuff, and it's not totally clear how much we can do. But we have been able to regulate certain kinds of products in the past in certain zones. For instance, bongs.
What's a bong?
I don't even know what a bong is. But you know, Mark was mentioning the problem of paraphernalia, and so that.
Well, the state regulates right now the dispensary can't have any outward signs as to what it is.
Right, right now.
Right.
But that's not paraphernalia per se.
Is paraphernalia sold anywhere in Guilford?
It is, in at least 2 places.
At a gas station?
The vape lock that's at exit 59, right?
Well, and on River Street and Route 1.
I know
West
where.
End.
And at Sunshine Daydream, which is right next to the surface of the moon. I mean, the Tractor Supply facility.
What are you saying?
Nah.
All right, let's move it along.
Yeah.
There's a young lady in the back who wants to speak.
I just want I just wanted to quickly say that I've seen bongs just like in the mall, hearts of them, and they also sell them on Instagram. You can find them.
But that town might not have a reg. It may be that this commission has the ability to regulate certain products within
Picked a good
certain
night.
You
zones.
you guys got to try to come up to the front so the camera can get you
Yep,
guys,
yep.
please.
Come on down.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Ott. I'm co-chair of Guilford Day. And I just had a very quick response to the question about could we document the decrease in perception of risk since the adoption of medical marijuana. In 2010, and I'd be happy to email or bring these to another meeting, I've got detailed statistics, but just for high school seniors, for instance, the drop was 64.1% perceived marijuana as risky, and in 2012, that number had dropped to 36.9%.
And does that coincide with the time that marijuana was legalized for medical use here?
Yeah.
Good. Now, that's important. You should see that too.
Yeah, and I'm absolutely, is it best to email or to bring it to another meeting? Or?
Email to planning and zoning, we'll all get it. Lisa is great about making sure we get everything, so.
Okay, super.
She emails us all the time.
Thank you.
So good, thank you, that's great.
Hi, I'm Jane Marchand. I'm also in the day. I think those numbers have also dropped because kids talk about what they think is safe together. Like, I'm going to be in 12th grade, and I think about myself in 9th grade, and my perception of the world was tiny. So what I thought was what my friend thought, and I feel that if we bring marijuana into this town, even for medical use, it will create a thought that that's safe, and like I just don't want that to spread through the youth because it is unhealthy and affects our brains.
Good. Thank you. Who else? Anyone else? Last chance.
Till next meeting, right?
Till the next meeting. And we'll get more input. That's what we want. All right, so, Tom, you have lots to say.
No, I don't. I just think editorially that the bigger fight is yet to come because, you know, just we've got to be aware of what's happening in Colorado, and Hartford's going to try to make it legal. I mean, they are. It's money. It's all about money.
Yep.
But they can't tell us to have it in Guilford.
Why can't they?
They can. That's the state. They can do anything.
They can write laws that says that a town cannot prohibit a certain. I mean, we have a state siting council for cell phone towers.
Yep.
And you may not want a cell tower, but if they have a public hearing and there's a case to be made for the cell tower being there, it's going to be there. And the town has nothing to do with that, controlling that.
So there are ample instances where the state decides what's going to happen. And you know, there's a lot of money to be made. You know, Colorado made, I think, $900 million in the first 3 months, and our state's running at a deficit. So it's not too hard to figure out where things are going to head. And in that kind of case, go ahead.
George, I just wanted to ask about putting a regulation in place prohibiting something that's currently illegal. It seems very weird.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about prohibiting recreational use marijuana at a time when it is
No
not.
one's talking about that.
Oh no, I mean, like, would it be even possible for us to add a reg into our zoning code that says the recreational use of marijuana is not allowed in any zone, make it a town-wide zone.
But it's against the law now.
Right.
It is against the law, it's against state law right now, right?
Yeah.
So after the law gets changed, then you're saying, could we do that?
I don't think we could regulate a use, Walter, but we could regulate selling.
Sales.
And where and all
But
that.
I just don't, I just think it's redundant at this point.
Because there is, the Madison model is important at this point, just to let you know. At the moment that the state, if the state were to legalize recreational use marijuana, one of the first things that we would do would be to put together a study committee and institute a moratorium. Good luck. Here I do. How's it going? We would institute a study committee, and then we would institute a moratorium while that study committee was at work.
Right.
This is what Madison did twice. It's definitely legal for a certain period of time. It's possibly legal for a longer period of time, and it's definitely illegal as you trail out across years. They managed to do it twice for about, I believe, 2 years in total, because they had not yet completed their work.
And the state's going to give us lead time. They're not going to say tomorrow.
Well, that's the trick, though, is the state gives us lead time, and we use most of that lead time, and then we institute a study committee and a moratorium. And that eliminates the first wave of recreational permits. And that is certainly what I would recommend to all of you to come back and hassle us to do, because if the legislature does this in 7 years, or even in 3 years, Joe will definitely have bounced me off of here by 3 years. So there will be a new group of people on this board at a certain point.
Right.
And so, whenever that happens, however many of you are still alive, come back. Or in town.
All right. So let's get it back together.
Recommend you continue this hearing to September.
Can I get a motion
I'll make that
to?
motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good. Can I get a motion to open the public hearing for special permit application? 2 public hearings.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so what do you got?
I don't think this application
Thank you.
petition requires much explanation.
No.
Similar to your current rule for 2 public hearings on zoning text amendments, this would require 2 public hearings for special permit applications.
Where are you?
Proposed amendment requiring 2 public hearings for special permit 273-99B.
Yep.
That's basically the gist of it.
Yep.
It would
And
not,
It comes at a good time because everyone here has an opportunity to see how important that second hearing is. It gives everyone an opportunity to be fully aware of what's going on. What do you think, Walter?
I think ultimately this is a zoning question. This is not an application, as you know. So it's very important that members of the public really understand the significance of this. What this ultimately does for us is it allows us to check facts. An applicant comes before us and tells us how things are, and we are usually expected under our current situation, under our current setup, to make a decision right then. Sometimes applicants' facts are not correct.
They're hopeful.
Sometimes they are incomplete. Sometimes they're completely wrong. And we make these decisions on the basis of these facts at this time. There's really no good way for us to check an applicant's facts before they've given them to us. And there have been several very close calls, some very serious near misses, where an applicant gave us bad facts. And we only just barely figured out in time just how bad those facts were.
Sometimes we did.
And sometimes an applicant gave us bad facts, we made a decision right away and moved on. Also, and moved on from a bad decision. More often, members of the public do not understand what's happening until after it's been presented here. In this modern world that we live in, people do figure out what an application was. Back in the 80s, I think that this commission successfully slid a huge volume of things past the interested and concerned and voting public of a town. That is no longer really the case, because now between GCTV, Shannon actually posts all of our videos, and between our posting of our agendas online, and from word of mouth from a lot of concerned people who are sort of hubs of information out to the community, we really receive scrutiny. But a lot of the time we receive it too late. We receive it after the decision has been made. We receive it specifically right after the decision's been made.
Yep.
We receive it on Thursday morning. Somebody comes out and discovers what we have done to them. And that is not how this commission should operate. And that is why, in the case of zoning changes, after essentially what was a debacle, where an applicant very carefully crafted a zone change that absolutely did something that concerned a massive number of people in the town. None of them understood it because it was written in technical language that frankly even attorneys and engineers would not have recognized unless they knew the zones for this specific town. Everybody was up in arms within days. But if we had made a decision that night, and we very nearly did, we would have left all of those people out of the decision-making process. And with special permits, we still consistently do that. So with zone map amendments, we now have 2 meetings, which is what we were facing tonight. This was a zoning text amendment, which will also be 2 meetings. But with special permits, very often, we make a decision right then. And with special permits, very often, we do not have the facts on that night. And there is no possibility of our getting them before the decision is made. So ultimately, this amendment, 273-99B, for special permit requirements, will just require us to wait 2 weeks. It will not require the applicant to show up again. So if something is not controversial or not interesting or not special, as so much of what we do is not interesting or controversial or special, right? Because most of what we do is stamp things, and that's fine. But the 2-week wait is worth it for something that will possibly be there for decades. And it's important for us to remember that our slight inconvenience is absolutely worth the level of sunshine that this will provide. And that's already been shown to be true with zoning text amendments and zoning map amendments. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good. I'm glad that you said that. I couldn't agree more. We seem to have an amazing amount of information coming to us at the town office closes at 4:30 or whatever, and at 4:15 they get a bunch of information that can't possibly be given to us and we can't deliberate on until the meeting. And it's kind of frustrating because some of the stuff we do, the vast majority of what we do is garages and sheds and little tiny things, and no one cares, and it's not a big deal and fine. But some of the stuff we do is kind of big, and Walter was talking about a situation where we really came really close to doing something really bad, and fortunately we didn't, but we come close a lot. And so anything we can do to add transparency and sunshine to what we do so everyone can see what we're doing and have an opportunity to speak about it is a good thing. So I agree that it's important that we do this. You guys have anything you want
Well,
to
yeah,
add?
I'd like to add something. I mean, I agree that there are a lot of circumstances, or actually I take that back. The majority of circumstances where we have special permits are very easy and straightforward special permits. And I think that it's unreasonable to require those individuals to show up to 2 of these meetings. And I know you're saying, oh, you know, they don't need to show up. But if they don't show up and someone comes and protests their petition, you know, their application, they are leaving themselves open to not being able to defend their application. So we cannot assume a reasonable person is not going to show up. I just think that if we can somehow craft this in a way that would be helpful for the larger and the more controversial things, or if we can look at all of our special permits and say, okay, these special permits can be done by staff. So let's have staff do these special permits, and then the other special permits should be two meetings. I don't think, you know, we recently had just 2 meetings ago, someone coming in for a special permit to put windows in their on their patio. There's no reason why he should have to come out here twice. I mean, I'm sure that some of you have gone through the special permitting process for remedial things. There's no reason why they should be required to come out here twice. There are some special permits that maybe we should have 2 meetings on. But I think the majority of special permits, we do not need 2 meetings on. It would be burdensome not only on the town, but also on the applicant. And I think that the majority of them, the cost does not outweigh the benefit. So there are some difficult decisions that we have, and I don't disagree. I think that we need to do something with some of our difficult decisions. But I don't think a blanket 2 meetings on all special permits is the way to do it.
So how do we differentiate?
Well,
I have no idea. I really don't.
First of all, we have right now, we have the right to ask the applicant to give us an extension.
Oh, sure. We could say,
On any one of these, we can ask the applicant for an
But
extension.
Tom, you know what will happen the majority of those times is one of us, Walter's going to say, I think that we should have this extended. No one's going to agree with Walter. Maybe there'll be another person that agrees with Walter. So effectively, that's probably not going to really, make or break this process. I think that there really needs to be a hard look at all of our special permits, and we need to take the time and do this right, because it is a big deal. And I just think that a blanket 2 meetings on all special permits is not right. Well, it looks like there's a public comment.
You don't have
to.
Go ahead.
Could I ask?
Yeah, you're right, bro. I just wanted to throw that.
Could I have ask a question here? Because in the agenda, it says requiring 2 public hearings for special permit applications. Over here under proposed amendments, it says the commission shall continue the required public hearing to a minimum of a second date. Does that mean there could be 5 continuing?
Well, we could always continue.
But that's still true now.
Yeah, we can continue a special permit.
So why are we doing this at all then?
Well, because there is a problem. I mean, I think that Walter pointed to a problem, and he wants to have that problem addressed. And I don't necessarily disagree that some of the issues that we have, should have 2 meetings, but the majority shouldn't. And this conversation, though,
That's
is
correct.
more at
I mean,
the merits.
The majority of what we do with special permits is rote and technical, remedial,
Yes.
right? And also nobody cares. Nobody shows up to 9 out of 10 special permits.
Except for the applicant. Until that one time that we have an applicant, we already passed something like this, an applicant doesn't show up on their second meeting, and the whole entire neighborhood comes out
But
and
then we
bashes
could,
it.
of course, continue.
Sure,
continue
we could
again, ask
continue.
the applicant to come
Yeah,
back.
I think it's more fruitful to have public comment.
Go ahead. Sir.
Well, perfect example would be tonight. As an applicant, I felt that...
Sorry.
I was actually just going to answer the question. As an applicant, I felt I was kind of under the gun of what I could provide and what I couldn't provide. It wasn't very well spelled out as to what you were going to need and what I should make myself bring to the meeting. I had a PowerPoint presentation available, which obviously didn't work out. I presented you with paperwork. A lot of the complaints to the permit were around the noise of the fan. I took decibel readings. You don't have those. I have them, but you don't have those. And I had asked zoning if I would be able to have you guys come out and listen to the fan. And they said, oh, you wouldn't do that. So, there are some, I'm kind of in favor of the second go-round, because only if it was in there that the applicant would have the opportunity to require you to do your fact checking.
But
Is that the wrong way to say that?
But what Josh is saying, if you cost Kelly money, which I assume you don't.
What?
If you cost Kelly money, which I assume you don't, but a lot of the time, these people bring in an engineer and a lawyer, and then they have to bring them in twice. And for a lot of our local people,
Right.
that's a big onerous
And you're the
problem.
applicant.
But of course, the reality, but it's worth it for us if there's a serious
Well, when we
conflict.
did the change of use permit, that was, pretty straightforward. There wasn't
Right.
a lot of discussion. It was,
And at any
Nobody
point, you can
cared.
request a
But-
continuance, not that it has to be granted, but as an applicant, you could always say, I'd like to continue if the commission.
But I still wouldn't know whether you would follow up on would you follow up on the dumpster size? Would you follow up on the decibel ratings? Would you,
We don't do follow-up very
So,
often.
so you said, so how do you do
Kills
the
me.
fact checking if you go to the second permit? Or are you still?
We rely on you.
Okay.
So that's what that would be the point.
We rely on you or the angry neighbor, or both.
Okay. Just to add to that, because I understand, the importance of two. However, I will say from my experience in dealing with this, once we started getting the complaints and Reggie let us know, the amount of stress, anxiety I've had for the past 3 weeks, that if this was to go towards the next meeting, it's really taken a burden on, myself, as well as I'm sure it has for even the people opposing us, the anxiety levels, and I think that some people want a decision. So.
So imagine doing this every 2 weeks.
I know, yeah, I can't imagine. That is just fine.
We don't even notice anymore.
I just want to say I agree with Josh. I'm not in favor of I wouldn't vote for this to make a blanket. You said yourself that a lot of this stuff is very mundane, and I don't think we need to make every application have to suffer a second meeting.
Well, you do agree that we probably should look at some of these special
We need to
permits.
review this in more detail.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Can I say, let me clarify a couple things. One is you don't have to debate the merits of this yet. You've got, this is the text amendment, so you have to have another public hearing on this proposed amendment right now, so. you have
Okay,
to make
well,
a
we get
decision.
emotional when we do this.
Let me clarify.
This is what we care about.
What the timing requirements actually are as specified by state law with respect to a special permit application where a public hearing is required. When you receive the public hearing, when you receive the application, you have to set a public hearing date within 65 days of receipt of the application. You have to then conclude the public hearing within 35 days of commencing it.
So 100 days.
Although the applicant can grant an extension of that 35 days, but you can't make them extend it beyond the 35 days. So you can have as many public hearings as you want within that 35-day period of time. And you can always, at your own discretion, have another public hearing. You don't have to specify in your regulations that there are going to be 2 public hearings for every special permit. If you want to have a second public hearing to continue it to the second date, you can do that. It's totally within your authority to do that, and the applicant doesn't have the ability to veto that unless it's beyond that 35-day limit. The public hearing has to be concluded within that 35-day limit unless they grant another 35 days time. Then you have, after the conclusion of the public hearing, another 65 days within which you can deliberate, and you have to make a decision within that second 65-day period. So that's what the law is today, under Connecticut law, and you have to stay within those windows. Now, you can require, make mandatory 2 public hearings, which is what this amendment is proposing to do. But it still has to say within that 35-day window.
And that's not a problem because we have so many meetings.
Right, and
except for the next meeting.
normally, applicants are usually quite willing to
to consent to an extension, because there's usually a good reason for doing it. And they know that if they don't consent to it, there's a reasonable chance that the application will be denied.
Of course.
So, they don't want to do that. So there is that opportunity. So realistically, you have 70 days within which you can conduct a public hearing.
Plenty of time.
Multiple hearing days.
We have a public comment.
I would also like to agree that a second opportunity would be great. I think to have notice of this, 2 weeks ago, in the middle of summer vacation for many people, especially when the school year this year starts on September 8th, August 19th. I can't tell you how many people on the street have to be on vacation. So it was very hard for the opposition to sort of rally to, and it is a learning experience for us. We don't come out to your meetings and complain about everything. You had to learn all the steps all along the way. And for the majority of them, we were told, come to the meeting and ask that question. We'd ask a question, we wouldn't get an answer, but you come to the meeting and ask the question. So it's hard. I learned some things tonight that I would like to know more information about. So to have a second hearing would, I think, work well for everybody. And
Good.
yes, it's stressful for everybody, but
Yeah.
I think it's better than making a bad decision.
I agree with you 100%. I would want that second one as an automatic thing. Other than that, you could decide at the first meeting whether or not you think it's worthy going to a second one.
There you
Pick up
go.
your point, sort of thing. So we should have that option. Yes.
To clarify, you have the option now. to
Yeah.
have a second public hearing,
Right.
or a third public
Right.
hearing, or four, as long as it's within
As
that
long as within that
35-day or
timeframe.
70-day window.
Stephen?
Steve Copps, 162 Sconset Lane, and I'm chairman of the Economic Development Commission. And I agree 100% with what Josh said. And I understand your point, Walter, that, things sometimes just don't smell right. If they don't meet the smell test, continue it. But I don't think that having it as a blanket is a good use of time. It puts stress on everybody in this room. It's not good customer service to the people who are sitting there as applicants, to put them through more than is what is necessary. I think a careful review. And I think also in terms of, you talk a lot about transparency, but, Rich, you came to one of the EDC meetings. It was when you were first considering changing to require some automatic second hearings for things. And, we kicked around some other ideas of things that you can do as a commission to make things more transparent. For example, require more clarity in the legal notices. Obviously, you have to have technical jargon, but you can also require something more than what the state says you have to require to make it clearer to people ahead of time what it is. Whatever you can do to make things more transparent reduces, I think, the need in a lot of cases for second public hearings, because people will have a chance to know up front. If you have a really, really major project, you're going to know right away just because of, say, the rock pile. People turn out. You're automatically going to need a second one for that. And certainly, if you have doubts that something isn't right, or you just feel you need more time to consider it, as George said, you can continue it. So I wouldn't make everything automatic. That's one point. Walter, in terms of you're saying, well, gee, it's only a wait of 2 weeks. That depends on what's on your next meeting agenda. I mean, it could be, not 6 meetings, but it could be, a month or 6 weeks before you can fit that in on the agenda. Potentially.
Yeah, that's never happened with zoning. Theoretically.
But, I think what Josh said is right. Take a look, see what things you really don't need to have on your plate here that staff could possibly do. The road things as one, I don't know who of you, you're smiling, but, the road things, take off the table here unless there's a need to have it here. then that'll speed up the process for the other things that you really do need to have a second or third or fourth hearing, whatever you need. That's it.
Thank you, Steve. All right.
Ready?
Mark.
The little guy again.
Go ahead, come on.
You're the big guy.
Well, good evening. I'll be brief. I have two quick things. First question, George. If the process, during the special permit, if any one of the commission asks for more time, is that automatic that is granted, or do you have to then vote on it?
The commission has to vote to continue the public hearing, if that's the question. The commission as a whole has to make that decision.
Okay, so if Walter is against the special permit in front of it, and he raises that to the whole commission, then all of you have to vote whether or not to extend that to another meeting? Yes. Am I understanding that? Majority. Okay, so doesn't that take care of the problem? Instead of having an automatic second hearing, doesn't that pretty much, I mean, I would...
No.
Well, to have a conversation, sort of,
There's-
it would be, I think that as a commission, at times, we feel stuck. Keeps on going forward and going forward and going forward, and it's difficult sometimes to sort of say no to an applicant, and it's just as difficult to say yes to an applicant in some certain situations. So, I think that relying on us continuing matters might not necessarily be the best way to do it. It might not. It might be the. I think after we spend some time investigating this, it might end up being the best way to do it. But I think that relying on Walter, sniffing to decide if something's bad or good might not. It might not work out for the purpose of what we're trying to accomplish. I think with this amendment, right, Walter? Or,
Yeah, we had, well, for instance, we had a near miss with, on Ray, 18 months ago, Ray's last meeting as chair, he was saying that we really needed to finish up this propane cage thing, different propane, not the big things. The propane cages in front of Big Y, he was really anxious to move it along, and I was like, we really just need to, I was saying the things that I say, and ultimately we did convince enough of the commission to continue it, and it turned out that they could not get a permit from the fire department to do this, so we were on the brink of approving a propane cage without having fully checked with the fire department whether or not it could get a permit at all. And the conclusion of that was actually at the meeting where you became chair. It was our annual meeting in April. And I mean, there are situations where we have actually just been under pressure because someone said something similar to what Steve said tonight, where they say, this applicant can't come back 2 weeks from now. We're in a huge hurry. We've got to finish this, that, and the other thing. And those concerns tend to evaporate after we decide to continue it. But initially, those concerns are immediately brought to bear in order to push us to decide now, now, now. And that has a big impact on some commissioners. Whereas if it's standardized, then the applicant can come into the situation understanding that this will take 4 weeks. And this has not caused applicants to rush.
Well,
it's caused them not to bring in applications that wouldn't survive public scrutiny.
So supposing as a middle ground, rather than needing a majority, if just 2 commissioners feel they need more information.
It's a weird procedural thing for us to do.
Tom doesn't like that.
How about one?
Council
If
has
if one of you object to it, then it can be, because 95% of what you do is saying, yeah, okay, yeah, okay, yeah, okay. Well, I don't want to oversimplify it, I understand that. But if one of you legitimately objects to something, because you want more information, you strongly feel, if that one person objects, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't continue to a second meeting. But if 99% of what you're doing, or 95% of what you're doing, doesn't require that second meeting, don't pass that burden off to the people
That's
who are
exactly our problem.
or against. Because that's what I'm saying. If you have an objection, okay, because from what I saw tonight, this is how it's supposed to work. Notice was given. The applicant is here. Those who are against are here. That's the way the system has been working and is supposed to work. But if you, and I keep singling you out only because you're closest to me.
I propose this thing.
Would you like me to skip to the next person? If you strongly object
It's not realistic.
to something, then the commission should be able to say, okay, there's a real concern here that this member has. Let's continue until we can get the information to satisfy all members of the commission. I don't have a problem with that. Okay, that's my 2 cents. I don't want to waste your time, your resources. I don't want to waste the community's time and their resources because some of them have to pay for architects to be here, for engineers to be here, for things like that. And that's an undue burden.
And if there's a real public concern, then that's too bad and they've got to pay for that.
That's
But,
correct.
The problem is sometimes there is a real public concern and we decide not to perceive that and drive on ahead.
But if you strongly disagree with something, you should have the power to continue. That's what these commissions are about. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what town government is about.
Council said that we really have to operate under regular rules, right?
Just concerns.
I mean, there's a reason why the boards are established the way they are. And the town of Guilford is, I think, not standalone unique, but the way the town works is that every board or commission has a minority, but is always going to have a vocal minority.
Correct.
And so there's 7 members of this commission and 2 alternates. And I think it's established like that so that the majority of the commission makes the decision, not one person.
I'm not saying one person makes the decision.
You did say.
I'm saying one person can extend the decision.
No, that's the same thing.
How is that the same?
It should, because the
sometimes
decision
the
be made.
majority wants it to disappear quickly.
That's not what I'm saying, Walter.
What are you saying, Walter?
That's not what I'm saying.
No, continue, please, continue.
Now, I'm not going to continue the
No,
conversation.
I want you to continue.
It's not a joke.
I understand
No,
that.
it's not a
That's why I
joke.
want to hear
It can still be fun.
what you were saying.
What I'm saying is that I believe that decisions should be made by a majority.
Okay.
And if we get down to the level on any of the boards or commission where one person can say, well, wait a minute, we're going to change the rules so now one person can say, okay, we're going to wait another 2 weeks. I mean, we're going to grind government in this town into a big hole.
Okay. What if we only said they can do it once?
I mean, once during a meeting?
Once during an application.
One meeting per application.
No. So if there is an objection to a special permit, okay, and any one of you makes that objection to that special permit, it gets pushed back to the next meeting, so you have time to do your discovery. But that's it. It can never be done again. The next meeting, it has to be decided on. Would that accomplish your goals? Would that satisfy
I don't know.
both Josh
I think
and
there's a
Walter?
lot of ways. I think what Josh is saying is to try to, when what Steve is saying is to try to work out a process where most of the stuff, some of the stuff that has to be special permit is actually ridiculous, quite frankly.
Of course. And I agree with that 100%.
But I don't know
giving you
that
an
that's related
alternate
to this.
to the non-regular stuff, where the bigger issues that come up in town. I'm just trying to hash this out.
I understand.
For our other
Yeah.
stuff, so we
Yeah,
gotta
we
do
gotta-
this.
All right, so let's move it along.
Okay, I have one more thing from
Go ahead.
Commissioner of the Economic Development Commission, Matthew Joseph, who had to leave before this came up. And I quote, Tonight is a perfect example of how our current system works, and doubling tonight's efforts would be a waste of resources. As technology evolves, so must our town if we are going to stay relevant and preserve Guilford's character. Instead of adding redundant public meeting, why not post them on the town's website or set up an opt-in email list which notifies those who wish to be notified? I'm against this proposal amendment to require 2 public hearings for special permits. Matthew Joseph, EDC Commissioner.
Don't we have an email?
It does not go out to the entire town.
Well, one of the problems with that email list is
Or
that
there's no way to opt in. I had to.
these folks would have no reason to know that.
I had to request to be put back on the list.
Right, so,
At one point.
okay.
All right, move to continue,
Second.
obviously.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
16th of September, that is.
16th of September?
Yes.
Okay, we beat that horse to
Back
death,
at the
didn't we?
community center.
Yes.
Hopefully. Okay, so we have 2 withdrawals. Do we have to go through the?
No.
No, okay, good. So can I get a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so public hearing items. This is where the stuff happens.
I'll make a motion.
Yep.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a coastal area management application for an area Caplan, 65 Waterside Drive, map 8, lot 55, as shown. As shown on, whatever it's supposed to be shown on. Zoning location survey for Mary F. Kaplan dated June 19, 2015, prepared by Anderson Engineering and Surveying Associates and Kaplan Cottage Building elevations and composite site plan for CAM review prepared by Robert Coolidge, AIA, dated 6/22 and 6/23/2015. This application is approved with the following conditions. 1, the 3 conditions on Kevin McGee's memo dated August 18th.
Yep.
And 2, I'm wrong. The secretary will take note. 3 conditions? Okay. And 2, the septic system be installed in accordance with the engineering design plan dated June 6, 2015. This application is approved based upon a finding that with the variance granted, it is conformance with the zoning code and consistent with the coastal management policies of the state of Connecticut.
Second.
All right, so let's discuss this. Was there anything else we wanted to add in? Was there,
No,
the stairs were separate or?
Well, I thought it seemed like Kevin really addressed the issues, and I think he came full circle.
Yep, yes, I agree. Any other discussion?
Yeah, my only thought would be that just, have Dennis Johnson's letter maybe be redone a little bit. Make sure they know it's not a renovation, it's a
I think
new construction.
Yeah, the point for Dennis Johnson was that the plan that he filed needs to be followed.
I think he's familiar. He knows what the plan is.
All right. Anything else? Last chance. All those in favor? Aye. That carries. Any opposed, abstentions? No. So congratulations to Maria Kaplan, who could build her home. Okay. Next up, we have Kelly Carney. Can I get a motion? Do we have a motion for this?
I'll make a motion, but I would like to have discussions about amendment conditions, because I'm not entirely sure. But I'll make a motion. Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a special permit for a home handicraft industry for Kelly Carney at 108 Wilderwood Drive, map 83, lot 15-66, as shown on an application dated July 24, 2015, and as heard at a public hearing on August 19, 2015. This application is approved with the following conditions. I think that we need to have a time restriction. I think we need to have a volume restriction. I don't know how that's enforceable, but I think it is enforceable pursuant to the what the handicraft business is. This application is approved based upon a finding that the proposed activity will have no adverse impact on the adjoining property. The special permit is effective on August 28, 2015, and upon filing with the town clerk.
Anyone care to second that?
You don't have the motion's not complete?
It's not
You've got
complete,
the,
yeah, because I don't know.
What would you put in there?
Well, you need your hours of
Yeah,
operation.
you need hours of
Hours,
operation.
days.
Yeah,
Excuse me,
days.
did someone second that?
No, because they refused to, because of my application, my
You
thing
don't
is
have a
incomplete.
complete motion yet, so I can say.
Yeah, so, okay, I'm gonna just say,
To be decided.
what, no, not to be, I'll just put some time in and we can amend it. I'll say that, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. And then,
Can I ask you a question?
yes.
What does that mean? Does that mean that trucks can't deliver before 9?
I'm under the impression, and maybe, okay, well, I'll continue my conditions, that, you know, no trucks be participating in any delivery, you know, no commercial trucks. You know, the.
Garbage?
Yeah, the garbage disposals need to be appropriately maintained and.
What about time on pickups?
Well, the pickups should be, you know, here's my underlying issue here, is that they currently use this kitchen. This kitchen is not going to be shut down because we say that it can't be a commercial kitchen. If we can now regulate the hours of operation, I think that we're doing a service to the community rather than allowing them to operate whenever they choose right now. So I have no idea how to regulate sort of the volume of the business, but, and those are my two.
Why don't you
conditions, I guess.
ask the applicant what they think?
I can't, the public hearing is closed.
Oh, you give them a shot. Right now, it's carte blanche, you can do what you want.
No, well, that's my motion. If someone wants to second it, so discuss it and then vote it down, that's fine, or vote it up,
I'm
that's
not
fine.
sure I got the 9 to 5 I got.
Monday, and the other one is trash pickup shall be, I guess I have 3. Trash pickup shall be Tuesday, or not, shall be during regular business hours, not ridiculous
9 to
hours.
5?
9 to 5. That could be the only time for trash pickup. And no commercial trucks. I don't know how I would regulate that,
Yeah, I
but
know.
coming and going from the property shouldn't be used with commercial trucks, in association with commercial trucks. And that's my motion.
So you have 2 addendums. One is no commercial trucks going to or from the property except for the hours of 9 to 5, Monday to Friday?
No, I'm under the impression, the applicant made it pretty clear that they're just using this for the personal, I mean, they're gonna have the individual, the homeowner is the only car that's gonna be transporting whatever product they decide to sell, that they decide to create in their kitchen. That's
So,
what,
and bringing in raw products is the same thing?
bringing raw products is the same thing. That's what
So
my.
then what you're saying is no commercial traffic?
No, unless they're coming in there to fill up the pool, they have a pool, or something like, or, you know, to move, I don't know.
All right, so no commercial traffic that's attendant to this?
I can't even
What
limit,
if
can I
they
not
buy a
limit that?
van?
What?
What if they buy a van? And
Well, is it gonna be
says-
commercially
and
registered?
it says Casey's Pub on it. You gonna ban that?
I don't know if I can ban that. They can buy whatever they want. Buy.
I mean,
Well, if it's got a combination plate and it's not a
commercial.
not a commercial vehicle.
Okay.
And they wouldn't be able to park it at night on the property? Is that the usual commercial vehicle rule?
No, they could.
All right,
And
but
they could buy 2 or 3?
I think I have a pretty clear motion. Do I have a second? And that's what I'm going to do.
Anyone care to second that?
Well, for discussion, I'll second.
Thanks, Tom.
I mean, I do have an issue. I mean, how do you tell the difference between a FedEx truck and,
I have no idea.
I mean, so,
And-
I don't know
and
how the
do you
commercial
regulate
thing
it?
works.
I mean, Reggie's not going to drive by there every single day to make sure that, I mean, I guess you regulate it because the neighbors will call Reggie and start yelling at her for having these much trucks. I think ultimately, though, the reason why, I mean, I understand, and I understand all the concerns. In fact, I live on West Lake, so, you know, I'm close to this area. I understand all the concerns that the neighbors are having. And I also appreciate all the attempts at remedying the situation that the applicant has tried to do. With that said, right now, there's a kitchen there. I mean, I could have a commercial oven in my house and bake, you know, for my own usage at all hours of the night if I want. What we're doing is we're limiting the usage of that kitchen because they came in before us and asked us to. They said, we want to have a commercial kitchen, and you could impose whatever conditions you'd like on that. And so what I like to at least tell myself is that we're actually bettering that neighborhood, not, you know, letting it go down the river, I guess.
Club.
Well, you know, it is a residential.
It is.
Street.
Yeah.
And this is, for all intents and purposes, commercial use. Because they're cooking for KC's Pub, and they're cooking for the Hickory Kitchen, and they're cooking for something else. So I have a hard time seeing how this is an appropriate use. You know, if it were my street, you know, I live on a little meadow, and I have cars racing up and down my street. I take my life in my hands to go get my mail because the mailbox is across the street. So I know what that's about. But I'm also familiar with this road. I used to know someone who lived down at the end of it, and it's a nice, quiet, residential, lovely street. And to have an owner of a business in town, or even out of town, using a residential facility to cook for their commercial operation is beyond what I think is appropriate.
Well, do you understand though, right now, they could be out there at all hours cooking for as many people as they want and doing whatever they want in that kitchen. That's what they could do right now. we don't
Because
have
right
any
now, because the you know, the stove doesn't know whether it's cooking for residents or for, you know, for friends or for.
The chef could be spending
So
hours.
what's the question before us then?
Well, the question before us is, they are proposing to use their kitchen in a commercial setting. And we have to decide whether or not it's appropriate pursuant to our statutes and our regulations. And
So what you're saying is that if we don't say yes, then they can use it all the time?
Yeah.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Well,
So
why,
our
why
goal-
why wouldn't they be able to use it all the time?
Well, because there has to be some sort of observation of it's a residential lot.
So if I had a completely wooded lot, okay, and I wanted to cut down every single tree, and I wanted to be out there for all hours of the night, cutting down trees.
Yep.
Other than the noise violation, you know, if I were to go out there starting at 9 and being done at 5, I could spend long time cutting down trees and making as much noise as I would like, and no one could have a problem with it. But if I came into Guilford Planning and Zoning and said, I want a special permit for home handicraft to start cutting down trees, and to sell my wood, I guess, I don't know, and you guys said, okay, you can do that, but you can only do it between 9 and 3, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, okay? It's better for the neighborhood that it's regulated than me just doing it anyway. I mean, I'm not saying that they're going to operate, obviously, if they're operating a commercial kitchen, they can't. I mean, if we say, no, you can't operate a commercial kitchen, they can't. But we can't say to them, they can't cook in that kitchen any longer.
This is a special permit for a commercial use in an R3. So this is a residential zone. I mean, and you know, they've brought this up lots of different ways, is that, you know, this is a commercial use in the middle of where everybody lives, which, you know, I used to see in China a lot, where they would cook in one place and then they would bring it down to the store, and then they would, you know, they'd be cooking in their house 24 hours a day, and everybody around them just tolerated it. But we don't do that in America as much. But the problem is that this kitchen exists now. This kitchen is in use now. This kitchen is legal now. It's currently, everything that they're doing in it right now is allowed.
It is legal now?
And it's causing nuisances for the neighbors. So we have.
Is it legal now?
According to the regs, it is, because it says that under
The
the,
permit's been taken out for the
Our goal is
construction.
to
You could put a stove in, and if they're in for the electrical, if they have the electrical tools.
So it's legal?
Yes.
And they have a commercial freezer outside on the deck, and they have a 6-burner Viking stove with a commercial hood on it. And
that could be my house.
it could be, but they're
People
saying.
spend $1 million on kitchens, and they're all just like that.
Especially in
Right.
Guilford.
Right, and I get that. However, I have a problem with the stated intention of cooking for a restaurant in town and bringing stuff there. I get what you're saying, and I agree. Every one of us could put that same really heavy-duty commercial setup kitchen in. I get that. But they're saying that they're going to be using this to prepare food for the sale in their stores. And I have a problem with that. Even calling it a home handicraft, I have a problem with that personally. I can't support this.
But we've gotten focused down on the actual denial for the commercial use. But our real goal for the neighbors here is to eliminate nuisance or reduce nuisance.
Right.
And when it comes to the neighbors, our goal is to reduce smell to reduce noise and to reduce any problems of runoff, although I do think that that runoff issue is independent of
I agree.
the kitchen.
That's got nothing
But
to do with the
ultimately,
kitchen.
the reduction of the nuisances that are produced by that kitchen is, and also avoiding having them increase, which is my biggest concern and which would be the strongest reason to.
It can only increase. Right now, they're not doing it.
Right.
And they said
How
they're going to
could
be doing it.
How could it not increase when they're doing it?
And when we gave them the approval for the Hickory Kitchen, we wished them good luck and that their business prospers. That's what we all said to them.
I remember that.
And I congratulated them. But I did not know when they got permission to do that they were going to be cooking the food at their home in a residential
Well,
block.
and currently, they're mostly or totally not. So so if they, I mean, obviously the use seems like it needs to increase when it comes to these sites. But I'm not confident that there isn't actually a zone of agreement here, because one of the other reasons why we continue things is because they haven't actually had a total opportunity to talk. And when it comes to things as simple as noise and smell, what we're talking about is an upgrade to a fan. When we're talking about eliminating the problems that this kitchen is currently causing them.
But
right?
it's
Or the
causing
placement
problems.
of the dumpster. and
It's
other things.
causing problems, but they're not using it for the accelerated purpose, which is.
But right now, it's causing it's causing X amount of nuisance, right? If we were to approve this, it would clearly increase.
Right.
But there is a possibility that they could come up with a way to decrease the amount of nuisance that is currently being produced by that kitchen, with or without this approval. This approval is the leverage for the neighbors to have a single opportunity to negotiate with them to come up with a way to reduce X down to 1/10 of X.
But we don't have that yet.
No, we don't have that. But that's a reason for either a continue or a denial without prejudice.
Right.
The problem is, of course, she wants an
Well,
answer tonight
another
because it's really
thing-
stressful.
Another thing, though, that we could always do, and we've done this in the past, is we could say, okay, we'll give you 6 months. Come back in if the neighbors, if you're not following the rules, or if the neighbors are still upset about this, we could revisit it if they
Aren't you
haven't.
the one that wanted to stop making everybody hurt for like ever?
Well, no, I'm just trying
We're
to.
the ones who are supposed to hurt. They get to go home.
I'm trying to make it, I understand, I know that the neighbors really are against this commercial use, but this is giving them an opportunity, like you said, I'm just echoing what you said,
Right.
to sort of reduce the actual usage of the kitchen. There's no one in this room that can take away the kitchen as it currently stands.
No one could take it away.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, completely understand that, and it's a beautiful kitchen, it looks like it's sanitary, it's 100% for large production. You don't have this kind of equipment to fiddle around at night making a recipe or supplementing a barbecue.
You're right.
There's going to be heavy volume out of here. You're not going to build this for that. I think when you, I love business, I think this is great, I think that if they need this type for their business, I think they should have it. It should not be in a residential zone. It doesn't belong there. It's wonderful somewhere else, and I can't understand how even granting this, letting them put a grease trap in, having a dumpster on your residential is a lot different than having a trash can. I'm in the food service business. I've been in it for well over 20 years, multiple locations. I understand this type of work. There's going to be increase. You have to have food on premise. He has a walk-in cooler on the back, whether that's a freezer or a cooler. You're obviously storing food in there, which obviously has to be kept at temperature. I get that, but somehow food's coming, whether they're going to buy it at Restaurant Depot, Cisco's delivering, somehow there's getting food there. I mean, this is a commercial application in a residential neighborhood, and it just doesn't belong.
But Frank, don't you think there's a possibility that they could come up with a way to handle the neighbors' concerns?
I think the neighbor's concerns is that there's going to be a commercial business
Right,
in
my
a
whole
residential
commercial-
area.
right, exactly.
That's
If we're-
foundational.
well,
It's
what I
not-
mean is,
They're complaining about the sound, and they're complaining about the traffic, and they're complaining about the garbage and the potential
They're
rodents.
not really,
all of
but
it.
the
But
traffic's
all-
not current. The
Right.
sound is current.
Right.
The
But
smell is current.
foundationally, this is a commercial business in a residential area.
Yes.
and I can't agree with that.
And that's why it's
grant
before
commercial
us.
businesses in residential areas all the time. I mean, we've done it, we
Right,
did it.
of a certain scale.
We did it for a chemical factory this person was, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago, he was creating, I don't know what it was, either some sort of sporting equipment. And Research, yes, whatever it was, and we asked, there was a lot of questions about gas smells coming out of his house. I mean, this is not an unusual application. What's unusual about this is not necessarily unusual, but what is really weighing on us right now is all the neighbors are opposed, or a majority that we have one neighbor that was in favor, but the majority of the neighbors are opposed to this, and they have concerns. So for us to say, oh, we're not allowing commercial industry in residential zones, I think that's unfair. But what I do think is fair is listening to the neighbors, trying to look at look at our regulations and seeing how much this affects their lifestyle. And we need to either rein it in, eliminate it, or, well, I don't know if we could eliminate the kitchen, but we need to figure something out that will be best for the community.
If we're going to deny it, though, I would ask that we make a denial without prejudice so that they can come back. Because I'm not confident that they can't come up with various ways to lower the level of nuisance as it currently stands, because they haven't really, the neighbors have not fully gotten together with this applicant at this point to come up with ways to, I mean, they already disabled the fan, for instance, which was making the racket, right? And maybe that would continue, or maybe the new fan would still be a problem. But we haven't fully seen an opportunity for them to handle their real concerns under actual conditions, because we're still not the best deciders for this. So if we're going to do a denial, I'd like it to be a denial without prejudice, so that if it turns out that they come up with a way to go to the neighbors and reduce the nuisance as it currently stands, and to make them confident that that some level of activity in that kitchen is going to work out, that they can come back to us sooner than 6 months. Because right now our denial would stop them for 6 months, correct?
No.
They could come back immediately?
With a revised application. Technically, you can't come back with exactly the same application, but you could certainly change it a little bit, and it's a new application.
So if it's like 2% tweaks, they can come back immediately?
You don't have denial without prejudice, and just a denial on a reasonable finding amounts to the same thing. Okay. Either way, they can come back if they come up with something, as long as it's not exactly the same thing, which could easily be tweaked.
So you guys aren't going to tell them that
No.
it still looks like a duck?
Well, you actually have a motion to approve on the floor.
I'm trying to envision, what would it be? It would be...
It would be whatever they're doing now, minus some noise and minus some smell.
No, it wouldn't, Walter. He said he's not cooking food right now for the restaurant. That's what he said. And he said that if he gets the approval, he's going to cook food for restaurants. So it's not going to be what it is now. It's going to be whatever it is times what it is now. And they're not going to make 5 dishes or 10 dishes. If I were running a business, they got to do it in volume. So they're going to make, 100 dishes or whatever it is that they're going to do. It's not going to be, she's going to load up the back of the Jeep or whatever she's transporting and then run it down to the store. I don't even know if you can do that if you're selling food. You have to have some
now
sort
they can do they can make anything they want.
Any hour.
In the middle of the night, they can make something that smells bad and sounds bad and is horrible. And that's part, I mean, I'm sure it tastes fantastic. No, it's just like, they currently under the current regime, they can do anything, and these neighbors will have to deal with it.
So what you're saying, if I'm understanding you, is I can operate a commercial enterprise in my residential home, and none of the neighbors can say anything about it using your logic path?
No. I can operate an enterprise that is not commercial, that does the same things, that is just producing,
Pay for your commercial kitchen and you could use it, just not as a commercial enterprise.
Right. You're just not.
And how do you regulate it? However, if we say, if it's already there and they're going to do that, and if we approve it, then we say we've given them the right to do it anyway.
Correct.
But we're saying they're going to do it anyway, so why not? Why give them our blessing then?
If they came to us and said, listen, you
We're
know what,
facing-
guys? We want to put a commercial kitchen in addition to our regular kitchen, we want to put a commercial kitchen in. Can we do that? I would have said no beforehand. I wouldn't have said, no, you can't do that
Well,
because.
they could put the commercial kitchen, not for a commercial application. You could build this all day in your house.
Right.
Rich,
You just-
I mean, on the outcome, ultimately, I just agree with you. The problem I've got here is I think that, these people have a genuine concern and a real need, and believe it or not, Tom, I care a lot about business in Guilford.
Stop. Stop.
So ultimately, I think that we need to deny it as it stands, but I would encourage you guys to get together nonetheless, because there may very well be a way to reduce the nuisance that you're dealing with right now. And if you can come up with some kind of adjustment, because otherwise you're just going to be dealing with whatever you're dealing with now forever. And if that's all right with you, then that's all right. But right now they're not operating a commercial, not operating for a commercial use.
Okay. What else?
We're not eliminating anything that they're doing now tonight with a denial. I'm just letting you know.
We're not allowed to talk to you.
I know, I'm sorry.
We're thinking.
But nothing we do tonight is going to eliminate anything that's happening.
Let Tom's got it.
I seconded this, but I couldn't vote for this. I could not vote for this. I would vote to deny this at this point, with maybe one proviso, because we've done this before, and that is that the special permit only runs for a specific period of time, and if in that period of time the adjustments aren't made that satisfy the neighbors, that we do not renew the special permit.
I can't even go that far. I hear where you're coming from, but I can't go that far. I can't support this in any way.
My just entire position is, we have an opportunity to regulate it, let's regulate it. And I understand completely where you're coming from, Richard, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. With that said, that's just my position, because I think that...
And that's fair. That's why we do what we do.
Exactly. And I would be more than willing, Tom, I know that I would be more than willing, Tom, to amend my thing to make it 6 months and to see if the conditions improved, with the residents or not. And but if it doesn't really matter,
I can't support it either way.
Sure.
So I'm going to call the question if we're all done. All done?
All right, so let's make it clear that we've added to what we have here, the time, the fact that there can be some sort of no commercial truck delivery and pickup, and that there has to be a specified period of time when the trash can be picked up.
Yeah, and we also don't necessarily, I don't know if 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, is the appropriate time for this. I said that, we didn't really even get to it, because I don't necessarily see this motion passing. But with that said, I think that we would probably need more sporadic, I think that a deeper conversation with the applicant. Because I'm sure that if the applicant were to tell the neighbors, listen, I only intend on operating this kitchen for 3 hours a day, 3 days a week. I think that might be better than them turning on this kitchen every single day for the next, eternity. But
so I agree with you.
Yeah.
And maybe, we were in a session 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago now, and we were talking about 66 High Street, and the applicant went to the neighbors. He asked them their concerns, addressed their concerns, and he really has a huge project. Giant project. But all the neighbors were on board because he was very sensitive to their needs. He talked with them before he did anything, and he sold this project to the neighbors before they ever got here. So all of the neighbors that were on that street came in here and they were begging us to approve it.
Well, I think that that's great, and I think that the problem here is that obviously, I don't think that the applicant did anything maliciously by doing this under their home handicraft. I mean, if you look at it's weird. Yeah, it's in the definition. So I feel bad for the neighbors who who feel like they were slighted by not really having a full understanding of what was going on. But with that said, I mean, the applicant, I don't think did anything malicious.
I agree.
I think that maybe if we want to try to continue this to 2 or 3 hearings out, rather than denying it, and having the applicant have a conversation with the neighbors in terms of really narrowing down the hours, because they really maybe only want to use that kitchen 5-6 hours a week, which is better than them having the opportunity to use it, unlimited.
Do you know that?
I have no idea, but I don't know. I mean, that might be what they're looking to do.
You can't profitably spend that kind of money in the kitchen and you're going to use it 5 hours a week.
I had no idea.
I don't care.
I agree.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Running a business, you don't set up.
You're
that
not
kind
going
of
to do that.
Seems like it's just an overflow thing, though. It doesn't seem like this is their major kitchen.
You don't know that.
I don't, but this is what they represented to us.
That kitchen's beautiful, but it belongs in a commercial zone.
I agree. All right, so are we all done?
Yeah.
Okay, so in favor of Josh's proposal, his motion, all those in favor?
Repeat the motion we were talking about.
Repeat the motion for George, please.
I'll repeat it because it probably isn't going to come out as accurate right now. I guess the way the motion is right now is Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, no commercial trucks coming or for delivery or pickup of the product, defined time for trash pickup, and 6-month
But
limitation.
quite frankly, I'd rather give them an opportunity to clean up their issues with the neighbors, as we've had this before, remember with the housing authority and the.
So then vote no and make a motion to continue it.
That's precisely right.
All right, so
But they should have an opportunity to, address the neighbors' concerns.
I think it's a good idea. I agree with you. I don't think that this is going to be something that's going to be agreed upon.
Yeah, I mean, look at what's going on
We gotta give them
with
the opportunity, that's all.
I mean, what are you going to do?
We have another hearing.
Yeah.
all those in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
2. All those opposed? 4. So this motion doesn't carry. Do you want to make a motion to continue this to another meeting, or do you want to?
Close the public hearing.
Well,
I think Walter
had closed
I
already.
will agree with him. I think you had an idea. No, you had an idea about denial without prejudice, right?
Yeah.
Well, but George explained that in this instance,
You already, you closed the hearing and you voted on the application. You don't really need to have another vote, but it's always a good idea in a situation like this to have a denial motion with some kind of finding as to why you're denying it. And then you can add, a codicil if you want that says, you urge the applicant and the neighbors to get together and come back with a new application.
Before it's put into commercial
They don't, obviously, they don't have to do that. If they can't come together, then there won't be one. But I think you should have a motion to deny, and it should be based on a finding that this is not compatible with the neighborhood.
Right. So Walter, would you make that motion?
You have that in writing in front of you.
Yes.
Right.
voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission deny a special permit for a home handicraft industry for Kelly Carney at 108 Wilderwood Drive, map 83, lot 15-66, as shown on an application dated July 24th, 2015, and is heard at a public hearing on August 19, 2015. This application is denied based upon a finding that the volume and scope of the proposed activity, is added. That the volume and scope of the proposed activity will have an adverse impact on the neighboring properties, and I'd like to put that in the form of a motion.
You want to add about the deny without prejudice?
No, we've got that, because if they come back with any adjustment,
Then it comes.
like for instance for time or specifications when it comes to noise or any other factors, then it's a new application.
Would they have to pay another fee?
We could waive.
We could waive the fee.
They can apply to waive the fee, which they probably should, because it looks like
All
5
right.
people were just nodding their heads.
Do we have a second on Walter's motion?
Second.
All right, so let's discuss this. They can come back, they can reapply, we can waive their fee. it's based on sound footing, that it will adversely impact, however you want to define that. Any other discussion? All those in favor of denial? Okay, so that carries. So talk with your neighbors, contain your operation, and relax. It's all good. We do this all the time.
Make
It's
them
nothing to be
cookies.
nervous about.
Enjoy.
All right,
Thank
so
you.
good work. All right, so back onto the agenda we go. The proposed marijuana is going to be carried to the next one, so we're not going to talk about that. The other ones are withdrawn. So we have site plans. We have some, we have receive and request for actions, which means we get to do something. Aux trois pommes. Aux trois pommes.
Hello.
Marie-Josée.
Marie-Josée, c'est ça. Baboudère Matin. And I have Aux Trois Pommes. We are moving to 258 River Street. And I don't know, they told me to come, so I am here.
There you go. So what is 258 River Street right
Well,
now?
there is the park that is Guilford Paint. It used to be characters and costume, like this guy's place.
Yes.
And now it is, that part became Guilford Paint, and the old house is where we are moving.
The one, the part that's closer to the mobile.
Yes. I mean, they're together.
Yeah.
They have their own entry. There is an entry, you can go just there. There is a disabled ramp. There is a... So, that's it.
This is a commercial zone, this is schools are permitted activity. We're not proposing any site improvements, they're merely occupying what used to be a single residence. It's also part of this same building that has the paint store in it now. The parking is in the rear, it's already existing.
Is it adequate?
There's adequate parking for
both?
for
Yeah,
zoning.
I brought some pictures,
Yes.
yes. There is also parking not where they stop for the store, that is behind, next to, I mean, I'm sorry, we took these this morning because I don't know how to do these things. And that's the Google Map plan, and that's it.
There was adequate parking.
Was there any question about septic, or we don't worry about that?
No, this is,
No, I've been on the green for the past 9 years, and I don't think
How many teachers or professors?
teachers are depending on the languages that are offered. So if I have many languages, then they would come and go. But we have only 3 classrooms downstairs and 3 classrooms upstairs. You know what I'm saying? So basically, the maximum I can have is 6 teachers.
Yeah, if there's 3.
Is there parking for 6?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, okay.
there's lots of parking around the back. It's gravel, it's not formalized
And-
striped spaces, but there's
And
lots
the
of
day
area.
I have 6 teachers at the same time is a very happy day. I'll make more parking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just joking.
So the parking is 100% for what's there, what is required by zoning for the Guilford Paint Center, and for this is, we're good.
Yes,
Right, but
correct.
this will have students being dropped off probably by their moms and dads.
Yeah, they drop off and they go because children do not stay, I mean, if they don't come for half an hour, they come for 2 hours, and
Yep.
no parents stay 2 hours.
You took this picture today?
No, actually,
She was up in the air. She has a
No,
drone.
I'm sorry. No, these pictures, the one there, are today.
What are your hours of operation, ma'am?
We start, sometimes I have to be there at 6:15 in the morning for our very advanced students.
5 days a week or 7?
It's usually 5 days a week. In Guilford, it's more. In my location in New Haven, we work 7 days there. We have 10 languages, so basically New Haven is more diverse in the sense of people being interested in different languages.
Yeah. Do we have any other letters or anything else from anybody?
Nothing in the file, sir.
I have one letter from the Health Department from Dennis Johnson, our Director of Health. For, and they have it listed as Aux Trois.
Aux Trois Pommes.
The applicant's proposed change in use to a language school is compatible with the wastewater disposal facilities currently existing on site.
Yep.
And Mr. Chairman, if it's in order, I'd like to make a proposed motion.
Please do, Walter.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan revision for change of use from residential to language school at 258 River Street, map 46, lot 48, as shown on an application dated 8/13/15. The application is approved with the following conditions. One, that prior to occupancy by the new use, the fire marshal inspect the premises to determine compliance with the applicable fire codes. This application is approved upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code. So moved.
Second.
Any other discussion? Josh?
No, I'm just waiting for my...
Call the question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Congratulations.
Thank you
very
for
much.
waiting. I'm sorry.
Thank you, it's okay. Yeah. Do I take back the pictures or no?
Give her the pictures.
Okay, thank you.
They're all for you.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Okay, have a great evening. Thank you.
All right. Beamer Petroleum, this is for a propane storage rank, probably at Sitka. Sir.
Last one in the room.
Yeah, we're
Last man standing, right?
Second hearing.
Are we in the second hearing? Just so you know, this is my first planning and zoning.
You're doing fine.
Is it great? This is just pretty much an oversight of our program. Greenby Propane is a subsidiary of Beamer Petroleum. We've been in the business almost 70 years. With more and more people going to exchange cabinets versus dispensing stations, we got into this business a couple of years ago. The property in question is 455 Boston Road, Guilford Grocery LLC. It's a Citgo station. The family, the Muhammad family, we've done 4 other locations with them. They're very good at this. All our equipment is brand new. We install everything via NFPA 58 and the Connecticut Gas Code. The location you have on my application, the location of the cage, would be on the left side of the building. It wouldn't encroach on any parking spots. It all that comes with crash protection. So there's pictures of some of our installations in there. All the product we have done at a facility in Delaware where the tanks are recertified, painted, filled, sleeved with our logos, and shipped back to us.
Do you have to talk to our fire department at all?
The fire marshal? I haven't yet, but we do talk to the fire marshals, and that's why Connecticut Gas Code covers 90% of that with the fire marshals.
So you have to make a promise.
What promise would you like?
This sign you can't do.
That's why I put it in there, because I knew you guys were going to say yes or no.
It's against our regulation.
That's fine.
It's really the
But see, that's why I put it in there,
So
because
this-
I had a feeling.
Is this on the Citgo station as you leave, go up the hill to the
Yes,
water
it's
tower?
the corner
It
of
just
Boston
reopened?
Road and Goose.
The one that's just reopened.
Yep.
So if somebody doesn't have your tank, they could still go and...
We accept any other company's tanks. We don't restrict.
I'm sorry. The location. So we're going east on Route 1.
East on Route?
We're heading east on Route 1, and we
Just past
Yep. It's the corner of Goose Lane and Boston Post Road. There's a, buffer between that and Goose Lane.
Oh, the vape law.
Yeah, the vape walk. Is the vape walk going in there?
No,
I
no.
thought Mrs. LaShine was going to put a sandwich shop.
Yeah, this is where LaShine was thinking about going.
Yeah.
She
I was
decided
hungry, I
not-
stopped in there, there was no sandwich.
She withdrew her application.
I was in the mood for a corn hump on the run. So now I'm going to get gas instead.
Just stop.
What are you gonna carry up?
As you know, this is sort of
You're the one who's doing it.
an odd situation for us because
What can I say?
we're technically responsible, even though we're not technically responsible for a lot of the fire safety functions. So, I mean, we have to approve things without really being responsible for them. So, you're putting it, as you're facing that building, you're putting it on the left. So it's by far, so it's someone taking all of the tightest left turns would end up facing it, coming off of.
It would be against the
highway.
building
But not protected.
on the very back left corner, behind where the tanks are and the fills for the bulk storage for gasoline for the facility.
So as I'm walking up to the front door, I actually have to walk around.
It would be around the side. It wouldn't be,
Right.
it's not on any walkways. It doesn't impede anything. We put two 2-foot concrete jersey barriers blocking it.
Right.
These cages, there's actually a video on YouTube showing a truck, a 10-wheel truck driving into a cage, and it doesn't compromise it.
Walter, there's a sketch in
Unfortunately, I've seen those videos. But going up the entrance ramp, as you know, right behind it, I'm just. We don't review this, obviously.
Right.
But just to let you know, going up the entrance ramp immediately behind it, it would be possible for someone to drop themselves pretty close, but I think probably not all the way.
I don't think, somebody would have to
Through
be.
the right guardrail.
Well,
They have
that
to really
actually
rip
just
it.
happened in Guilford on Little Meadow. Unfortunately, the person.
No,
drove off the
I've
bridge.
seen some serious accidents, but they would have to be doing some severe
But they're going up
speed
a
to
ramp,
make
so
it-
that's not a realistic.
Right, to make it over there and down to that
So
spot.
now I have to
That'd be
slow down when I go.
It would be a severe accident.
Dramatically?
Because you'll have gas.
And they'd be going
I
2
keep
miles an
waiting
hour.
for you to
That's-
go get your man.
I'd like to make a motion.
Before I come down.
Yeah, let's
It's
go.
appropriate.
It's appropriate, Josh. Please do it.
Voted that the Guilford Planning and Zoning Commission approve a site plan revision to allow a propane tank exchange cabinet at 455 Boston Post Road, map 48, lot 15, as shown on an application dated 8/12/2015. This application is approved with the following conditions. One, that prior to installation of the cabinet, a permit be obtained from the fire marshal. This application is approved based upon a finding that it conforms with the zoning code. And that's where I'll leave you.
All right, so it's implied that we'll comply with all signage regulations.
Yes.
We're not approving any signage
Yeah,
as
they're
part of
not.
this application.
No,
Right, I
there wouldn't
understand
be
that.
any additional signage if, the feather flags. There's a sign you see on the front of the cage.
Yep.
That would be the only signage or something in the window.
That's not really.
That would be a separate permit.
I got a whole sign.
Yeah.
You're gonna change the color of this thing?
We can't stop them.
We have a second.
You're gonna change the color of these things?
Oh, yeah, I second it.
I don't like green.
Call the question.
Yes, please.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstained? No. Congratulations.
Thank
Guess
you.
them up.
ladies.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of withdrawals. And then we have a receive and set public hearing date for October 21 for Ocean Co. at 485 Whitfield Street. Do we need to make a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
No.
Okay.
We've got to determine our date. We have a requested date.
Requested October 21st.
Walter, what do you think?
It's what it says.
It's a long way from now.
The earliest date they can make it.
Reggie, these folks know they're not going to be using it until they get their approval, yes?
George and I went with Dennis and talked with the controller.
Right, so they won't be using it until they get their approval from us. At least that's my understanding. Okay, good. So, Walter, what are you thinking? October is
No,
the second?
that's fine. That's great.
Okay, good. All right, so all those in
Just,
favor of
you know-
setting? What's that, Walter?
Sorry, they already, one of our meetings was just sort of, completely shot because we got notice of this pretty recently that they couldn't make this
Yeah, we
September
have to be
2nd.
flexible, accommodate the
But
applicant.
we've also got this, we're in an after-the-fact cycle now where, it came after the fact a long time ago. And, it continues after the fact up to this point. And these include structural factors on this
But they're
facility.
not using
that are
it to
still-
that purpose.
Right.
So, you know, if they've done anything.
So the wait is worth, I agree, the wait is worth it.
Good. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. There's another one. The other one.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Uh-oh.
Last man standing.
Last man standing.
So we
You didn't
have
have to stay for this. This is a
Stephen and
receipt.
Lisa Cops. Let's receive and set the public hearing date for September 16th.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We all have to recuse ourselves.
We all know Stephen. Stephen's a frequent flyer here. Okay, applications to be received. James Hersey. Receive and set public hearing date September 16th.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Subdivisions. Receive and set public hearing date September 16th for Carmen and Nancy DiFilippo.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, man.
The ugly part.
Can I get a motion to approve the $193 that we owe for Royal Printing?
So moved. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Josh and Tom are now unelectable, by the way.
Okay. We have the minutes from 8/5. They were emailed to all of us. Have everyone had an opportunity? Has everyone had an opportunity to review them, and are they substantially correct?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. So can I get a motion to approve them?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Abstention.
Can I get a motion?
He wasn't there.
All right. Can I get a motion to end this meeting?
So moved.
No, before you.
No.
Oh, wait.
No,
Stay
we
with us.
already did it.
Stay with us.
I want to recommend
Big
that
news.
you, recommend that you cancel your meeting of September 2nd.
Oh, no.
So moved.
Second.
Wait. Don't we have important business with?
We have no business, and we also don't have a meeting room.
Now, we could get McDonald's. They probably would let us use the back booths.
I know a better place than a conference room.
Yeah, Dunkin' Donuts.
Yeah, maybe.
They have a nice
Frank, how much are you gonna charge us to rent
Do a
it?
little business.
Get yourself, get coffee.
All right,
down
so
there.
we have to vote on
That's
that.
where we meet
Yeah, that's
anyway.
not, I mean, that's not our role. You have, this is a regular scheduled meeting.
Can we have a motion, please, to
So
cancel?
moved.
Move to cancel September 2nd meeting.
And I'll
I second it.
Or
Everyone seconding.
Or
Everyone
Frank-
seconding.
Frank moved
All
it.
those in favor of canceling?
Aye.
Aye. All
Mr.
right.
Chairman, with no business before us, I move we close this meeting.
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.